Chapter 347. The Princess in a Catastrophe. Hundreds of years ago, forest elves once fought shoulder to shoulder with greatsword maids, resisting their nightmare, the demons. Amongst all the heroes at that time, the Killing Princess was one of the strongest greatsword maids, whose name could even make demons shiver. She appeared on one battlefield after another tirelessly, and the demons she killed could fill up an entire valley. In some sense, she was the most terrible greatsword maid, because the number of the demons being killed by her was the uttermost. Maybe from the strategic level, she was inferior to the first Auroral Morningstar and the second Divine Shield, but when coming to a one-on-one battle, no one dared to say that they were stronger than her. The demons hated her very much. Several demon armies even united together for killing her more than once. The Killing Princess was once deceived by a traitor, falling into a deadly trap, and was surrounded by a nearly endless amount of demons. But after killing for 7 straight days and 7 nights, she was still the last one who survived, standing on the ground that had been stained with blood. It was said that the Killing Princess's clothes were white at first, but after experiencing endless battles, it was stained in red, then the red darkened and finally became black. The elf in front of Yoon, she was one of the elves that was once the past Killing Princess's partner. He witnessed the Killing Princess's killing with his own eyes once upon a time and was impressed with her crazy battle style. When he looked at Yoon, she, apart from his face, he looked very much like the Killing Princess in his memory. This was why he stopped and responded to Yoon Shi's greeting. "Hello, little princess." This time, the elf said in human language, "May the forest be with you. No matter what will happen, please raise your head, and be the most beautiful princess." Yoon Shi gazed at the elf and didn't know what he meant. Is she a princess? Can she be? The elf's partners, the knight and the mage, looked at Yoon Shi's maid clothes in surprise. It wasn't easy for an elf to call a human princess. Only the blood descendants of the oldest kingdoms would be recognized by the long-lived elves. These oldest kingdoms may have had a deep relationship with the elves thousands of years ago. No matter how strong any newborn countries were, they wouldn't be recognized by the elves. The elven race was xenophobic, but also nostalgic. These old kingdoms fought together with the elven race in the past catastrophes and sacrificed a lot of people, so they could win the elves' friendship. In order to communicate with the elf race, newborn countries had to connect through marriages with the blood descendants of these old kingdoms. Otherwise, the elves wouldn't even talk with their envoys. The elven race had a special method of recognizing the bloodline of a human. Only the people who had the royal bloodline of the old kingdoms could trade with them. A princess who was recognized by elves was more exalted than any common princess. How could such a princess walk on the street casually while holding flour, eggs and vegetables in her arms? Yoon Shi felt strange seeing this adventure team from the Western God's domain, and they also felt strange encountering a real princess on the street of such a remote sword domain. Yes, she was the most beautiful, excellent princess I had ever seen. The elf said in a yearning tone. Hundreds of years wasn't a long period to an elf, but it wasn't really short. The elf had met a group of friends and saw them die, then met another group of human friends and repeat this process over and over again, but in his memory, he never forgot his past partner, the bloodstained Killing Princess. She was always driven by hatred, brandishing her sword against demons indefatigably. No one could impress him so much like she could. When he looked at this little princess wearing the Killing Princess's clothes, he couldn't help but mix her up with the figure in his memory. Of course, they were not the same person. Although their clothes looked the same, but this little princess had no hatred in her clear eyes. It was said that the Killing Princess was just an innocent young girl before her country was destroyed. Maybe she also had such a pair of clear eyes at that time. However, the elf didn't see it. When he joined the war, she was already the famous Killing Princess and only left a hell-like bloody road behind her. She kept her back to her partners on any battlefield. People were frightened of her, including a lot of greatsword maids. "Little princess, if you come to the Western God's domain, you're welcome to visit our elf race. We will never forget the people who helped us in the past." People were afraid of the Killing Princess, but elves weren't. To them, she was always their friend and partner, and they would remember her face forever. They witnessed the history of human beings, seeing the race grow up and become strong. They didn't speak, but they would never forget. No matter how much time had passed, 100 years or 1,000 years, to the elves, a friend is always a friend, and the princess is forever the princess. Chapter 348, Kingfisher Sorry. But, did you take me for someone else? She felt uneasy looking at the smiling elf. From the surprised eyes of the elf's partners, he realized that it must be a rare thing to see an elf smile. The knight was dumbfounded, his body was just as stiff as if he had just been cursed by a Medusa. As the elf's partner, this was the first time he saw the elf smile. He had to admit that the elf smile contained a charm that transcended the racial and sexual barrier, making his heart suddenly pound heavily. Kite, calm down. The mage quickly noticed the knight's strange look and immediately summoned a water ball and threw it in his face, cooling down the knight's superheated head. Oh, thanks, Williams. Kite touched his face that had just been washed by the water ball. That was too dangerous. My sexual orientation had almost been twisted. The allure of the elf was really striking. No wonder that the elf race was indeed the favorite race of the world. There is no way that ordinary people could stand such a temptation. Cough. I know what you are thinking, but don't forget, even in the elf race, Kingfisher is a prominent noble. Don't even think anything stupid in your mind. Williams sighed looking at his knight friend. Another person down. He and Kite were also nobles. He was a descendant of a famous mage family, and Kite was a duke's son. They were childhood friends, but their identities were far inferior to Kingfisher's. After all, Kingfisher was a long-lived elf, and his name was also the name of this adventure team. He was a legendary hero who survived the catastrophe hundreds of years ago, who once fought shoulder to shoulder with Kite and William's ancestors. Although they were teammates, they knew they were actually protected by the elf. For the sake of their families, Kingfisher took them walking around the world, teaching them the skill of fighting personally. From the Western God's Domain to the Eastern God's Domain, they had traveled 3 years, and now they were a little famous adventure team. The adventure team Kingfisher was undoubtedly the #1 adventure team in the White Lotus Sword Domain. It was all due to the exalted elf. Most adventure teams took a knight and mage as their cores. It was pretty rare to take an archer as the core of a team. Kingfisher was such an exception. His archery was far beyond the imagination of mortals, and he was the most promising elf who could enter the legend rank in a not-too-distant future. Kite and Williams had to admit that they were really lucky to be taught by such a strong elf. No, I'm not mistaken, little princess. The elf's long ears lightly shook and he looked at She worriedly. He witnessed how the past killing princess slaughtered demons on battlefields. He hoped that this new inheritor wouldn't follow her on the same road. The past killing princess lost everything in the war with the demons. Her father, mother, sisters, brothers, all relatives, and the people of her country died in the war. It was said that when she came back to the ruins of her country, she shed tears of blood. I won't rest before I eliminate the last demon. The only good demon is a dead demon. Let's kill them all. When they were on the same battlefield, Kingfisher often heard these words from her. Her mind had been twisted in the endless killing, and she also obtained the strongest power after that. She had given up everything and never wanted to be a hero. She just killed, and killed, walking on the road called revenge, and finally. At that time, Kingfisher was shocked by her strong power and felt upset because of her madness, but finally, he chose to follow in her footsteps, fighting to the end with the demons. In essence, the elf race was a peace-loving race. Unless it was absolutely necessary, most elves didn't even think of leaving the Garden of Elf. They preferred to study arts rather than learn sword skills and magic. Although the elves' talent was much better than a human's, and their lives were dozens of times longer than a human's, they didn't like to practice their body and magic, which made them defenseless when facing the demons' invasion. When the demons appeared and broke the elf's guardian circle, the biggest catastrophe in the elf's history started. In that catastrophe, over 1/10 of elves were killed and one of their most important life trees was robbed, which directly caused the birth of the dark elf race, the twisted life in the eyes of all elves. Because he saw the catastrophe with his own eyes, Kingfisher finally threw away his harp and picked up his bow, went to the front line and fought against the demons with human beings. It was the darkest period in elves' history, but also a time of change. After their homeland was invaded, elves realized that even though they were protected by the life trees, they would still be killed if they were too weak. Elves were the favorite of the world, and demons were the destroyers of the world. When the demons appeared, the elves' paradise era was already doomed to be ended. The catastrophe was stopped by the united army of elves, humans, and dragons. They sealed the channel the demons used to descend into this world, but everyone knew it was just a temporary solution. The war hadn't been finished and the demons may come back at any time. After hundreds of years, there barely were humans who still remembered the terrible demons, but to the long-lived elves, it was still like a calamity that happened yesterday. They finally couldn't take back the life tree which had been robbed and stained. It became the belongings of the newborn dark elf race and was carried into the underground world together with them. The elf race forever lost one of the 12 life trees. Chapter 349, The Legendary Hero to Elves. The life trees were the origin of the entire race. It was unacceptable and unforgivable to lose any of them. Even if they would spend 1,000 years or even 10,000 years, they swore to take the life tree back. Even if they would use 100,000 years to purify the contaminated life tree, they would never hesitate to do it. 12 was a perfect number. It stood for the rule of the circulation of nature. And 11 was a misshapen number that was laughing at the elves' mathematics aesthetic feeling. It would never be allowed to have only 11 life trees in the eyes of the elves. They were really being provoked. Their hands, which only made delicate arts in the past, started to make one strong weapon after another. They cultivated special plants that could increase their strengths, and wore the flowers that stood for their lives, then left the quiet elf forest one by one, stepping onto the battlefield. Many of them died in the war with demons, and the elves who could come back all became the most excellent warriors. Elf sword dancer, phantom archer, forest hunter, mirage knight. A lot of new careers were born in the originally peaceful elf race. The talent that had been forgotten by them a long time ago was activated again. Kingfisher was one of the strong elves who walked out of the elf forest and fought shoulder to shoulder with humans. He had almost experienced all the battles together with the strongest force of mankind, greatsword maids. From a rookie who would shiver and vomit on the battle to a veteran who wouldn't even wipe away the demon's blood that was sputtered on his face, he finally became an excellent warrior and a ruthless archer. Once he drew open his green elf bow, the god weapon Syndapsus made of his life flower, he could kill any enemy from 10 kilometers away. His arrow was so strong that could smash a mountain giant's heart accurately. His career was called Demon Slayer, which was very rare even amongst all special careers. Every attack from him could cause a critical hit to demons, which was a career that never appeared before. As long as he went to the battlefield, he would become a killer whose arrows never missed. Although the demons he had killed weren't as much as the killing princess had killed, it was also an amazing number that could fill up a few gullies. Undoubtedly, apart from his hatred towards demons just like all the other elves, he was deeply influenced by the killing princess's battle style. When the war with the demons was over, he didn't put down his bow and return to the elf forest, but kept traveling around one god's domain after another. Sometimes, he would join an adventure team, and at other times, he preferred to form a team himself and helped newbies to grow up. Everything he did was for the unfinished war, the demons who may come back hundreds of years later or thousands of years later. Although humans didn't understand his idea, they didn't understand why he wanted to prepare for a war that may come after thousands of years. After all, humans had short lives. Most people's grandsons wouldn't be likely to see the return of the demons. However, as long as humans could keep developing hero-ranked bloodlines and inherit these excellent bloodlines from generation to generation, his behavior would be meaningful. He knew someday, the young humans he helped and developed today would become towering trees, supporting their race in the future. Human beings could only consider a future that wasn't longer than 100 years, and elves would consider what would happen after 1,000 years. How could their thinking be at the same level? Who knows what surprises I would meet on my long journey? Didn't I just see the inheritor of the person I always longed for on the street of this remote sword domain? Thank you, great life trees. This must be the so-called fate. At this moment, this girl wasn't the killing princess he was familiar with, but they wore the same uniform, which made him feel as if he just went back to that old time. Well, do you want to have a drink? My treat. Kingfisher smiled and stretched out his hand to Yunxi. He suddenly remembered that this was the first time he positively invited someone in his long life. Hundreds of years, he had a lot of teammates in adventure, but he was always the one who was being invited. It was really a strange feeling to invite someone proactively. Are we being treated differently? Kite still remembered when Kingfisher agreed to let him join his adventure team. This big news caused a sensation in his family. Don't doubt, there is always discrimination amongst different people. Williams pressed down his hood, hiding his jealous look in the shadows. Although his family was an old aristocratic family with thousands of years of history, it was just one of the inconspicuous families set up by Kingfisher's past partners. If it wasn't because Kingfisher was always willing to help the families of his past partners, they had no chance to become his teammates. He was a mysterious elf archer, the hero in the war with demons. Moreover, he looked handsome and was warm and mild in personality. The number of the princes and princesses whose hearts had been captivated by him could even form an army. When they were chosen by Kingfisher to be his partners, countless people looked at them with envy and cursed them to die quickly. Chapter 350, The Figure of the Past Me. Yunxi looked at the mysterious elf in confusion. Till now, he still didn't know the elf's name. They were still strangers who just passed by each other on the streets. Why? Is it because he is a very enthusiastic elf? But the elves he knew were never so effusive. Even dark elves who were much more exalted than ordinary human beings. They were rarely friendly to humans. As the only dark elf he had seen, Black Moon was very arrogant, indifferent, which deeply touched his heart, making him want her like a flying moth wanted to dart into the fire. And because of her, he knew that elves' bodies weren't cold at all, but very soft and comfortable. Anyway, he didn't think that he would have anything to do with elves apart from Black Moon. Yes, you look like an old friend. No, a teacher of mine. Although Kingfisher's age was older than the killing princess, he still thought that she was his teacher in his heart. Her strong power and her sad life all touched his heart deeply, which made him finally become the demon slayer. Without the killing princess, he wouldn't be the hero Kingfisher and obtained his god weapon Syndapsus. To elves, they didn't mind what humans thought of the killing princess, they only knew she was the heroine who once saved the entire elven race. Because when the demons broke into the Garden of Elf, she suddenly appeared and killed half of the demons, so only 1/10 of elves were killed and the demons only took away one life tree. If it wasn't for her, it would have become an even greater catastrophe. Even though she wasn't really doing it for saving the elves, she just wanted to kill as many demons as she could. However, her behavior indeed saved the elf race and they recorded it on the tablet of the elf race. At that time, Kingfisher witnessed the killing princess's battle and finally realized their fault. The entire elf race was just swallowing the bitter fruit of not practicing their battle skills hard. So he went out of the forest together with his partners and fought against the demons together with human beings and dragons. I look like your friend. Yunxi couldn't help but pulled in by his face, trying to see if he was dreaming. Looking at his behavior, Kingfisher smiled. No. Kite covered his eyes painfully. No, I can't keep watching. Why is the elf's smile so tempting? No, you can't go to that realm. Go back, Kite. Williams quickly comforted his friend, Kite, the future Duke. Elf is a life being that humans should never be in love with. The people who liked elves let themselves hit rock bottom. This was what was recorded on a page of the book of William's family. The numerous names on a page recorded the painful lessons his ancestors learned. 9 members of William's family joined Kingfisher's team since he started to develop newbies from the families of his old friends, and all of the 9 people suffered from an illness. After being taught by Kingfisher, the 9 Williamses all became the most excellent hero-ranked mags in their eras. Some of them even almost touched the edge of the legend rank. Unfortunately, none of them had children. Because none of them got married during their lives. About the reason, the record of his family didn't say anything, only leaving a few equivocal hints. But after that, every excellent member of his family was ordered to have children as soon as possible. Williams didn't understand the reason of this strange rule of his family in the past. Till he was chosen by Kingfisher and joined his team, he finally understood what his 9 ancestors experienced and how depressed they were when they had to return to their family. Oh, It's too grueling to take an adventure with such an elf. Look, as a muscle hunk, Kite's mind had almost went wrong. It wasn't difficult to imagine what a problem his ancestors had faced. Humans should not fall in love with elves. Damn it. Why? I just look at his smile, and my heart is almost being melted. A sound was crying in William's heart. Why isn't he smiling at me? As a muscle idiot, something was awakened in Kite's heart just now. But William's heart had been captured a long time ago. He knew he couldn't and there wouldn't be any result, his heart still being captured by the elf's charm. My ancestors, I understand. We should never think about love and only contribute ourselves completely into studying magic. Sorry, I'm glad that you wanted to invite me, but I've something on cooking, so I really should leave now. Yunshi felt that something was wrong just now. When the elf smiled, the knight suddenly stared at him ferociously, and the mage suddenly gazed at him like a sinister viper. Not only them, the girls on the street also stared at him as if they were going to eat him. Whoa. It's enviable. She is speaking to Master Kingfisher. Why is she but not me? I also wanted to greet Master Kingfisher. Is it because Master Kingfisher likes maid uniforms? No. That can't be true. Okay, now Yunshi knew the name of the elf. It seemed that he was famous here. That wasn't surprising. After all, even in the Western God's domain, it was rare for elves to appear in public, not to mention that he came to this remote sword domain. Kingfisher was probably the only elf in the entire White Lotus sword domain. If the mysterious dark elf, Black Moon, had left this sword domain. Chapter 351, Elf Illness. Kingfisher is my name. Kingfisher noticed Yunshi's confusion. He said and walked to him leisurely. His body wasn't as delicate as Black Moon's but was very tall. His appearance and body had suppressed the boundary of gender. When he stood in front of Yunshi, he looked sparkling. When I was born in the flower of life, a beautiful kingfisher sang beside the flower, so I was called Kingfisher in the elf forest. Kingfisher smiled and explained. At that time, he was a quiet elf who only loved arts. The corolla he made was very popular in the elf forest. If the demons hadn't come, he would probably become the best of the numbered corolla producers in the forest. Oh, hello, Kingfisher. Yunshi felt more confused. He felt that he knew the elf, but it couldn't be his memory but an impulse from the maid uniform he was wearing. Because of this, he stopped and greeted to the elf just now. Well, if you don't want to drink, how about having a walk? Kingfisher said without any displeasure of being refused. It was also a fresh experience to be refused by someone to him. As a rare demon slayer, the hero of the demon war, rarely there were people who would refuse him, no matter where he was. If he asked, even the master of the elf race, the holder of the life tree crown, the elf queen would consider seriously, not to mention the common kings and emperors of the mortal world. When he decided to recruit partners, the families of the human world would be scrambling to recommend the best children of their families. When young boys and girls looked at him, their eyes were always full of longing and adoration, and they would think every word of his words was the truth of the universe. Some people even recorded his words when they left the team and made it become their family instructions. Hundreds of years had passed, and he had had hundreds of partners, but no one dared to say no to him. Williams, I find that there really are differences amongst different people. Kite half squatted down on the ground like a loser dog and his face was covered with tears. You just knew it. There are surely differences amongst different people. Williams also cried with him. This must be the so-called pain of youth. He heard that Kite's ancestors also had the same illness just like his ancestors. He finally knew what the unspoken words on the record of his family were. However, it was too late to find the truth. They were already helpless. Oh, okay, compared to the knight and the mage, Yunshi didn't feel too much from the elf, because he had had the dark elf girl. Only an elf could heal the illness called elf. Kite and Williams didn't have the Mist Soul army. Naturally, they couldn't summon Mist Souls just like Yunshi. In the entire universe, only Yunshi could do this. When all was quiet at dead of night, he would put on the White Emperor mask and summoned the Dark Elf's Mist Soul, asking it to dance for him. Of course, apart from his star spirit Maya, no one knew about this. Speaking of Maya, Yunshi looked around and found that it disappeared. After he accomplished the trial on the water god's fantasy island, Maya obtained much more power, and that could let it leave Yunxi for a period of time. It seemed that it found something just now and ran to a corner on the street. "Master, I just found something good." When Yunxi started to worry about Maya, its sound appeared inside his mind. "What is it?" Yunxi said, and walked to Kingfisher, strolling around the street under the jealous eyes of Kite, Williams, and the girls on the street. "It's a woe. No, something is wrong," Maya suddenly cried, which giving Yunxi a shiver. "No, is she getting in trouble?" "These ice-type pine nuts taste cold but are very delicious. They are imported goods from the dragon god's domain. Do you want to have a try?" Kingfisher peeled the pin nuts and handed them over to Yunxi. "Oh, thanks." Yunxi took over the pine nuts from his hands. Compared to humans' hands, the elf's hands were soft. Only the favorite of nature could be born with such a pair of hands. "Williams, does Kingfisher like maids?" Kite gazed at them and clenched his fists. "Don't think too much. Just what the proverb in this god's domain says, enduring for a while, you shall appease the dispute, retreating a step, you will get a broadened mind." As a mage, Williams was as knowledgeable as his ancestors. "I think my mind is not right. I must be ill." Kite pressed his hand on his forehead. He finally realized how happy it was to be an ignorant young warrior who only knew to fight. Eat and drink all day, never retreat when facing enemies. He was the steel shield of the whole team. Apart from battle, he never needed to worry about anything else. This was the tradition of Kite's family. A lot of well-known holy knights were from his family. He was always proud of his knight ancestors and swore that he would become an excellent knight too. But now, Williams heavily patted him on his shoulders. "Kite, you are not alone." Chapter 352, Black Dog Woof. With a pitiful barking, Maya rushed to her master from the corner of the street. Boom! A beast which should never appear on such a street was chasing after her. It was a black beast that was as tall as a man and as strong as a bull. Its 4 limbs were covered by thick bones and had sword-shaped protrusions on its head, shoulders, and hind legs. The most frightening thing was that it had 4 blood-red eyes. Hunger, ferocity, the desire of hunting, and a primeval instinct flooded inside its eyes. "Master, help!" Maya was going to cry. Its body toppled down to the ground after running to Yunxi's feet. "A golden fairy?" Kingfisher looked at Maya in surprise. Even the elf race also liked this animal very much, because it was a full-blooded golden dog that could bring good luck to its master. Golden Fairy was a rare imperial golden retriever. Moreover, this dog obviously had the purest bloodline. Even in the entire Western God's domain, it was a kind of favorite endangered animal. In order to stop this kind of dog from dying out, people tried all sorts of methods. To put it bluntly, even one of its paws was more valuable than a small city. "No, it's just a common golden dog fed by me." Yunxi quickly shook his head. "Don't lie. How can it not be a golden fairy?" Kite didn't know what the golden fairy was, but as a knowledgeable mage, Williams saw through Yunxi's lie at a glance. How could any common golden dog have its pure golden fur, wise big eyes, and a pair of black obsidian-like pupils? Williams once saw the real golden fairy with his own eyes, so he was sure that it was the best golden fairy, a golden princess. Although it was just a dog, but it was actually more valuable than most princesses of the kingdoms in the Western God's domain. However, since she was the real princess that was recognized by Kingfisher, it wasn't surprising to see that she had a golden princess. It was the highest token of identity that was more distinguished than diamonds or gold, because proud golden fairies would only accept the oldest, most excellent royals as their masters. Kingfisher was right. This maid really had the bloodline of the oldest kingdom in the Western God's domain. "Ululu, Ululu." Looking at Maya running to Yunxi, the black beast roared. Its 4 paws firmly caught to in soil like an eagle's talons, and the sword-shaped protrusions lightly fluttered on its body. Black demon dog. Kingfisher realized what this black beast was. It was an avatar of disaster. No one knew where the first black demon dog came from, but these nightmare creatures indeed appeared in the Western God's domain together with demons. Their 4 eyes were the symbols of them, A single black demon dog could even rout an army of 1,000 mortals. They could also obtain different abilities after evolving into different higher forms. They were the favorite war machines of the demons. It seemed that the black demon dog on the street was still in its initial form, but even a black demon dog that hadn't evolved could be equal in force with a common hero-ranked human. This kind of dark creatures had twisted the rules of the world since the beginning of their birth. Just like the bloodthirsty demons, they belonged to that side. It was said that even a god was killed by the strongest black demon dog. It was the ultimate war machine of the demons. Roar. Being suppressed by Kingfisher's aura, the black demon dog emitted a sharp roar. The bones on its body started to spread and covered its whole body as bloodlines appeared on the bones. Suddenly, sunlight disappeared. No, it was the aura of the black demon dog spreading and covered the entire street. Dark skyfall? Kingfisher frowned. It was too strong to be a black demon dog's ability, since it was still in its initial form. Maybe the demons had developed some new technologies. The fact that a black demon dog appeared in the mortal world itself had indicated that the seal had become unstable. Maybe the demons still couldn't go to this world, but their low-level war machines like the black demon dog were already able to pass through the seal. Roar. Being covered by thick black mists, the black demon dog rushed towards Yunshi, like a nightmare ran out of the deepest darkness. The look in its blood-red eyes was unbearably thirsty for blood. As the demon's war machine, black demon dogs wouldn't feel fear. It would attack its enemy till it killed its enemy or was killed, no matter how strong its enemy was. Ding! The crane wing's twin sword drew two mysterious traces in the air, blocking the dog's paws precisely, but the strong power still made Yunshi take a step back. This monster dog is strong. Although Yunshi wasn't wearing the White Emperor mask, common hero-ranked beings couldn't force him to step back now. The monster dog's strength was stronger than most common hero-ranked beings. If taking Green Hippo as a reference, this black monster dog's strength was dozens of times stronger than a common green hippo. Hiss. The attack was just to try to figure out how strong Yunshi was. The black demon dog roared and increased its strength again. Master, be careful, it can keep evolving in battle. Maya's voice appeared inside Yunshi's mind. She was too unlucky. She suddenly met the big black dog and was being loved by it. In order to obtain Maya's heart, it had started its wild pursuit. Click below to check out the ebook. The Primal Fire, Book 1 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage The Transformation of Stars, Book 2 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage The Water God's World, Book 3 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage The Magnificent Sky Dance, Book 4 of Starchild Escapes Arranged Marriage. Chapter 353, The Pleasant Princess Black Demon Dog. Yunshi didn't know why, but he knew its name was Black Demon Dog, although he had never seen such a black dog before. He felt as if he was very familiar with it. Its weak point was under its neck 3 centimeters. Its heart wasn't its weak point, neither its head. The only weak point of this creature was its core, which could let the black demon dog keep eating and evolving. The easiest way to kill a black demon dog was to stab a sword into its neck, then cut through its body and tear it open from the inside. Only a dead black demon dog is a docile dog. Suddenly, a flash of killing intent appeared inside Yunshi's eyes. Kingfisher was ready to aim his bow and kill the black demon dog with one shot, but he stopped after seeing Yunshi's expression, and shook his hand at Kite and Williams. Puff, puff. The black demon dog also saw the killing intent in Yunshi's eyes, which made it feel very uncomfortable, as if there was a memory that had been engraved in its bloodline. It became grumpier and stared at Yunshi fiercely, even ignoring the elf who was a much higher threat to it. It was a hatred that had been remembered by its body's instinct. The bone armor on its body became thinner but much sharper. After losing a few defense points, its speed and strength were increased greatly. Defense meant nothing in front of this enemy. It needed to be faster and stronger. This was what the black demon dog obtained from its bloodline along with a crazy killing intent. Let's play. Yunshi put down the shopping basket and held the crane wing's twin swords in his hands. His mind was very clear now that he could hear the flowing of his blood. He wasn't wearing the White Emperor mask, but he was in high spirits. After seeing the black demon dog, something woke up inside his bloodline. Roar. The black demon dog jumped to the roof of the building beside the street, running crazily around Yunxi. Yunxi felt more and more stressful as it ran. It seemed that it was a meaningless running, but was actually a special hunting right of the black demon dog, which could even shake the heart of a hero-ranked being. When it turned the 18 rounds, the battle broke out. Hiss! With a sharp sound breaking the wind, 3 figures pounced at Yunxi from 3 directions. Triplex attack, the basic ability of the second form. Kingfisher recognized this skill. When a black demon dog was in its initial form, it would only know to attack any living creature following its ravening instinct, but after eating enough flesh and blood of strong creatures, it would be able to develop and evolve into different forms. Triplex attack was one of the strongest abilities a nimble-type black demon dog could have after it entered its second form. One was real and the other 2 were fake shadows, but the attacks from the 2 fake shadows were real. If one only regarded them as common shadows and didn't dodge them, the person would pay a heavy price. 1, 2, 3. A dangerous light flashed inside Yunxi's eyes. Pleasure, stimulation, excitement, and a special feeling were affecting his mind, activating his body into a special state. Yes, this is a battle, this will become a killing. There won't be anything else but the simplest idea of killing each other. Smelling the sweet smell of blood, dancing in hell. Let's party. First, cut off its paws. Yunxi didn't even look at the 3 figures with his eyes. His body naturally danced and his hands subconsciously brandished the twin swords, then the black demon dog's true body suffered a heavy blow, and one of its paws was easily cut off. Uru. Before the black demon dog's poor head understood what was happening, its belly was kicked and its body rolled on the ground. The next is to break its bone armor. The light of sword flashed in the air again. Yunxi used a sword skill he had never used before, stripping off the black demon dog's bone armor instantly. After losing its bone armor, it was just a strong black dog. Moreover, it had lost a paw. Pleasure. Pleasure. A brutal smile appeared on Yunxi's face, as if he had become another person. Oh, the whole thing still went down in this direction. Looking at his smile, Kingfisher sighed. Nothing has changed. The killing princess is still the killing princess. Maybe she could preserve her sanity at other times, but would instantly go crazy as long as she saw anything about the demons. In this mood, the killing princess wouldn't stop until she had killed all the demons in her sight. To the killing princess, the battlefield was her unique stage. She was the brightest princess on the stage, dancing along with the melody of killing. Hundreds of years had passed and most people had forgotten the killing princess. Only elves wouldn't forget her, the great sword Maid who saved their race from the demons. That day, Kingfisher's heart was deeply touched while watching her killing, looking at the slender figure as she danced on the bloody stack of demon bodies. Even after 10,000s of years, Kingfisher didn't think that he could forget that scene. Just like what happened at this moment. Click below to check out the ebook. Book 1, from C1 to C62, Book 2, from C62 to C144, Book 3, from C145 to C244, Book 4, from C245 to C315, Book 5, from C316 to C392. Chapter 354, The Aura of the Evil God. It's still alive, what a strong life. Yunxi stepped 1 foot on the belly of the black demon dog, who was still struggling fiercely although one of the twin swords had pierced through its heart, where the core, the weak point of it was. The core of the black demon dog could move freely inside its body. It wouldn't be fixed to any certain place but move around inside the deepest parts of its body, such as under the heart or on its tail. Very rare black demon dogs who had confidence in themselves would expose their cores on their foreheads. However, it doesn't matter where it is. As long as I tore this ugly, dirty beast to ribbons, there was no way the core could still exist. The core of the black demon dog was actually a ball of dirty flesh and black blood. Common weapons couldn't harm it, because they would be quickly eroded by its black blood, which was learned by humans through countless lessons written in blood. Gah, woof. The black demon dog stared at Yunxi fiercely, regardless that its core had been pierced through and a great amount of black blood was flowing out of the wound. Especially when it saw Maya was snuggling up next to Yunxi's feet, tears of blood filled its eyes. It's... Yunxi looked at it in confusion. What a strong grievance. This black demon dog isn't simple. Kingfisher also saw the flaming aura of hatred from the black dog's battered body. It looked as if its most important lover was being stolen in front of it and it couldn't do anything. Z. Suddenly, a great amount of black mist roared out of the black dog's body. The air blast was so strong that she had to step back. Most parts of the black demon dog's battered body were swallowed by the black mist, and only its heart was still pounding in the air. All the black mists gathered together around the black heart, forming a weird rune. It can be stronger. Yunshi's eyes stared at it with interest and pleasure. Common demons couldn't have such strong power. Maybe it was really a big fish. You'd better let me enjoy a satisfying battle. This feeling, is it an evil god rank? Kingfisher's eyes became serious. Evil god rank was too strong for this small sword domain. The demons at this rank could even destroy an entire god's domain. How could a lower-level black demon dog have such a strong power? Moreover, the seal still existed. It was impossible for evil god-ranked demons to pass through it. The seal is the strongest seal of humans, dragons, and elves. Can it have really become weakened? I don't care who you are, just let me kill you. Yunshi held the twin swords and made a posture. It was the starting position of the killing princess's dance of revenge and blood. Boom! The black demon dog sensed danger. The mist suddenly spread and countless runes appeared, dragging the heart into the darkness. The dark skyfall dispelled and the sunlight shone onto the street again. The people on the street looked around in confusion and didn't know why they suddenly wanted to hide in their rooms just now. The power of the magician demon. Yes, it's an evil god-ranked power. Kingfisher walked to Yunshi, just like what he did when he followed the killing princess in the old days. Oh, what did I do? Yunshi suddenly woke up and gazed at the twin swords in his hands in surprise. I was myself, but not myself just now. When he brandished his swords, he understood all the weak points of the black demon dog, but it couldn't be a knowledge that he knew him. Say, little princess, enjoy your peaceful life. May it be long. Kingfisher looked at him with his gentle eyes. Since she inherited the killing princess's heritage, she would face the same fate sooner or later. The killing princess's life was a legend, but also a tragedy. She was once the most favorite princess, but she finally entered the non-human realm. Even Kingfisher had followed her many years, he had never really gone deep into her heart. Only she herself knew what a heavy load and misfortune she was carrying. Kingfisher had a complex feeling about Yunshi. He looked for the characters of the killing princess from her, but also wanted her to keep her innocence. Treasure your peaceful life now, because you are doomed to be on the battlefield one day. But don't worry, when that day comes, I will come to you again and become your most loyal advisor. Now, it's time to say goodbye, my little princess, said Kingfisher. Then turned around and walked away with Kite and Williams, only leaving his back to the girls on the street who were looking at him with longing. His words are strange. Yunshi shook his head and forgot about this. He picked up Maya and stroked its quivering body, asking it what happened. Whoa. Master. That big dog is terrible. It's a bad dog. Maya cried. 15 minutes ago. In the alley not far away from where Yunshi was. This should be this place. Maya walked gently on the street. Its golden fur reflected the bright light of the sun, making it look like a prideful princess. In the deepest side of the remote alley, there was a big figure. It was a big dog that was as strong as a bull, whose size could scare ordinary people into crying. At this moment, Maya felt an unusual aura from this big dog's body. Click below to check out the ebook. Book 1, from C1 to C62, Book 2, from C62 to C144, Book 3, from C145 to C244, Book 4, from C245 to C315, Book 5, from C316 to C392. Chapter 355, The Prideful Prince. It was a dog, a common dog wandering in the human world. It was about 1 meter long and its weight was only about 15 kilograms, which was too slender compared to its length. However, as a stray dog who could only find food in trash bins, what else could it ask for? Don't look down on its miserable appearance, because it was the only stray dog who had survived in the sword tip area for 3 years. Unlike the stray cats who could enjoy a leisurely life on the street because they were cute in the eyes of humans. It didn't have a pretty appearance, and couldn't even clean its body well like cats. Stray dogs were often caught and eliminated by the patrols in the sword tip area. Most stray dogs could survive a year in this area. The worst situation was to be killed on the second day coming to this area. Even so, numerous hungry dogs still rushed into this area, because it was easy to find food here. Stray dogs, they didn't have smart brains. As long as they could find food, they would try their luck. The feeling of hunger was too terrible. Even knowing they could probably be beaten to death, they couldn't stop their impulse to look for food here. But it was the smartest and most unique stray dog. 3 years of life was actually a very long time for stray dogs. Most puppies couldn't even grow up, and the few lucky dogs left would die within 2 years because of bad nourishment. It wasn't like the other losers, because it could always find food in this area. Beginning with its birth, it naturally understood a lot of things which other dogs would only know after paying with their lives. Humans were only lively in the daytime. The best time range to look for food was from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. Some of the wall enclosed the houses of humans had cracks on them, where it could sneak into and find leftovers. It could eat as much as it wanted there, and the most important thing was the patrols would never enter the houses of other humans. It didn't dare enter the houses which looked splendid, because they were protected by invisible dangers. Now it knew the dangers were called magic circles. With the knowledge it knew naturally, it could avoid most dangers in the sword tip area. What made it feel confused was, although it ate a lot of food every day, it didn't become fat. Its poor brains couldn't figure out anything about this. Till one day, countless lights dropped to the ground from the sky. One light entered its body and aroused the old bloodline. Although it looked like a miserable stray dog, it was actually a black demon dog, the war machine of the demons. Its bloodline was inherited from the highest-ranking king of the black demon dogs. Even though the bloodline had become so thin that could be negligible, it was still the bloodline of the king of the black demon dogs. As long as there was any chance, it would wake up. Most black demon dogs aroused their bloodline on battlefields or in disaster areas, where they could find plenty of corpses. They would evolve into horrible monsters after eating sufficient flesh and blood. However, it was different, because its bloodline was aroused by the White Lotus secret treasure, and it heard 9 sounds. Due to this, its bloodline from the old king of black demons dogs, the legendary Cerberus, was activated. When it heard the 9 sounds, the energy it absorbed and stocked within the 3 years was released, and its body became big instantly. Even it didn't know how much food it had eaten within the 3 years, but it must be able to be piled up like a mountain if it vomited them out. Maybe its bloodline would never be awakened in its life, unless it came upon a battlefield or a disaster happened in its area. Fortunately, the light from the White Lotus secret treasure offered it a great opportunity. Instantly, it obtained wisdom to understand its fate. It was a prince, the future king of all black demon dogs. It wasn't a common dog, so it didn't have any interest in all the common female dogs it had ever seen. Qumran. It decided to give itself a name, which was the name of a Death Star in the sky, the name of the prideful, great black demon dog prince. It firmly believed that it would become an earth-shaking monster one day. The dawn of horror is coming. The era of the great Qumran is coming. Hey, can you hear me? When Qumran was lost in its imagination, a euphonious voice suddenly appeared beside its ears. What a wonderful, clear voice. It immediately imprinted inside Qumran's mind, making its heart pound heavily. Qumran slowly opened its eyes and saw its angel, the golden dog that was walking gently from the other side of the dim alley to it. She is my light. She is my sun. She is the goddess of all good qualities. In its 3 years of life, its heart was never moved by any female dog, but now, Qumran understood the meaning of fall in love at first sight. It's her. It's her. Qumran's heart was filled with happiness and desire. I want her. Only her. The golden princess deserves to be the wife of the strong, handsome, majestic, talented, unique future king of all black demon dogs. She is mine. I won't let anyone become my princess apart from her. Roar. Its blood was boiling. Qumran stood up with its hind legs like a human and stretched out a paw to Maya, folding her into its arms. Chapter 356. The Evil God's Power. I am Qumran. Because it just gained wisdom, it was tongue-tied. A common black demon dog couldn't speak. Unless it had reached the third form and specially enhanced its wisdom, it could gain the basic wisdom. Generally, such a black demon dog could be the leader of a black demon dog legion. They were the core force of the demons in the war. It could speak and even give itself a name. Undoubtedly, it was because of its strong bloodline of the king of all black demon dogs. I'm born with the great bloodline. Even though I'm still alone, I'm the king of all alone dogs. You can speak, so you have wisdom. Great. Maya hadn't realized what Qumran was thinking. She wanted to recruit it to be her subordinate. As the star spirit, the golden princess, dogs would naturally feel close to her. Although the big black dog looked ferocious, but, as long as it was obedient, it could be a reliable helper. Unfortunately, she misunderstood Qumran. Although Qumran looked like a big black dog, it had no relationship with any real dog but was actually a lower-level demon. Black Demon Dog was born to be a man-eating monster. Poor Maya hadn't realized this and was still glad to recruit her first subordinate. If I can recruit him, I can help Master even in daily life. With such an idea, Maya smiled happily towards Qumran. At this moment, Qumran saw his angel. At this moment, Maya was sparkling in Qumran's eyes. Oh, my light, my hope, my belief. Even from the knowledge he inherited from his bloodline, he never saw such a beautiful, cute, sparkling beauty. He believed that even if its ancestor, the ultimate black demon dog, Cerberus, was here, its heart would inevitably be captured by her. Qumran totally fell in love. Have a baby, with me, Qumran roared. It had never had such a strong impulse in its life. You, what? Finally, Maya realized something was wrong. Her smile froze. I'm the king of corruption, the son of heaven, the proudest king of the world. Although Qumran had just gained wisdom, it immediately learned how to boast of itself without a teacher. Qumran was the name it chose for itself, which meant lone wolf. As the only black demon dog that wandered in the sword tip area all day, it thought it was suitable to be him, the only king of this darkness. What a great name, isn't it? Aren't you a dog? Maya froze. It called itself Qumran, which meant lone wolf. If it was really a wolf, she remembered her charm was useless on a wolf. Let me eat you. Qumran wasn't really going to eat Maya, but some memories suddenly popped out of its mind, which was from the secret books it found from the houses of ladies when it looked for food in the past. Yes, this is the right method. According to the knowledge from the books, I should be arbitrary and cool, hot but also cold, so that the little princess in front of me would be charmed with my manliness. There is a reason I held my little princess in my arms, because it could properly show her my muscle and my hot love. When water flows, a channel is formed. Everything is going smoothly. My little princess, don't be shy to fall into my arms. Aga. Maya hunched over and kicked Qumran with her hind leg, then nimbly jumped to the wall and started running. Who will stay with you, disgusting monster? You are not even a dog. If I don't run, you will certainly eat me. What? Qumran was dumbfounded. No, that isn't right. In the books of human ladies, as long as a handsome man did this to girls, they would willingly fall into the man's arms. Aren't books the crystallization of human wisdom? How can they be wrong? No. I can't let her go. After a few seconds, Qumran lost his temper and crazily chased after Maya. You are mine. You are mine. If you don't come to me, I will come to you. Roar. Don't run, my princess. Qumran's golden light ran away, going to a place it could never reach. Why are you running? My princess, my love. Don't leave me alone. Gwa. Oh. Qumran cried. Although it only left a heart rotating in the black mist, it behaved as if it was still fighting the terrible black-haired maid. Be quiet. A hoof knocked on the black heart. It immediately felt a horrible aura of high-level demon. Gawu. It stopped struggling, because its instinct was warning it. It was an aura that wasn't inferior to its ancestor, the three-headed demon dog, Cerberus. Qumran gradually took back its memory, and it remembered it now. It had died. After it gained wisdom, it hadn't even enjoyed its new life for 24 hours. My honorable master, why did you save it? Child Yoon, he looked at the black demon dog's pounding black heart with discontent. Even though he was the evil god, Tlahui's Kalpantikutli's first subordinate, this was the first time he saw this power. As a strong evil god, Tlahui's Kalpantikutli could even reverse life and death. Its physique isn't bad, and its bloodline is very rare. The white alpaca knocked its hoof at a snail's pace, then a weird power emerged out of Qumran's twisted heart. Roar. A continuous creepy howl echoed inside the basement. Chapter 357. The real target. So, Maya, you mistook it for someone else? Yoon, she said as he held Maya walking on the street. Yes. It wasn't it. I sensed a dog who had just awakened its wisdom, but not this monster. Maya wiped off her tears with her small paws. What a big mistake. To be chased by a big black dog crying. It would become her lifetime psychological shadow. A dog who just awakened its wisdom. Is that real? Yoon, she doubted. I'm sure. The secret treasure's effect was strong. Maybe the chances are slim, but I know I can find my subordinates here. Maya didn't want to give up. The dogs who just gained wisdom may be at a loss as for what to do and didn't look any different to common dogs, but as they got used to using their brains, they would feel lonely and start to think what they were. Maya wanted to look for these dogs, because they had great potentials. If she found them and taught them, they could be her master's helpers. As a star spirit who wasn't good at fighting, this was Maya's plan. What kind of dogs is it easy to gain wisdom? Yoon, she changed the topic. Well, the dogs who were smart from the beginning, Maya said in a hesitant tone. I think the black dog is very smart. Yoon, she teased. Indeed, the black demon dog met all the requirements of Maya. It was smart, fierce, and strong enough to kill any common hero-ranked being. Green hippos were far inferior to it. Unfortunately, it wasn't a real dog but a war machine of the demons. Black Demon Dog was a demon shadow creature taking a wolf as its prototype, known for its daredevil character and man-eating habit. Only a dead Black Demon Dog is a docile dog. As this appeared in Yoon, she's mind again, he sighed. The killing princess's heritage was much more powerful than his imagination. Hua, the rank of this gift is too high. Yoon, she clearly remembered his body when he entered the killing princess mode. In the battle with the Black Demon Dog, his mental speed, faculty of judgment and control of force to the twin swords had all been greatly increased. His physical quality wasn't changed, but he could naturally kill the Black Demon Dog easily. Since it was strong enough to kill any common hero-ranked being, this meant he could defeat most hero-ranked beings in this mode. It made Yoon, she associate it with his childhood sweetheart, Hua. Undoubtedly, her combat power was also far beyond the limit of common hero-ranked beings, although she herself hadn't reached the hero rank. It couldn't have been a power that belonged to Yoon, she himself. When his body used that power, he felt that he wasn't himself, but he also didn't totally lose control of himself at that time. Pleasure, excitement. He didn't remember if he had ever entered this mode in the water god's world. Demons must die, even if it was just a dog. Yoon, she murmured. He vaguely figured out the launch condition of this mode. It must be a strong spirit that was possessing the black Maid uniform. Once the owner of the Maid uniform encountered anything about demons, it would wake up and prepare to fight. Even though you are already dead, you can't let it go. Yoon, she knew the killing princess had died many years ago, but her spirit of killing demons was still attached to the Maid uniform. Perhaps she fought till the last second of her life. Only a strong spirit could get rid of the time-wasting effect. Even though she had died, even though her body had turned into dust, she wouldn't stop fighting till the last demon was killed. Her endless waltz hadn't finished yet. Through the Maid uniform, her spirit would be inherited from generation to generation. Sniff. While Yoon, she was lost in thought, Maya suddenly sniffed and looked around. What's the matter? Yoon, she stopped and looked around in confusion. I smelt it. There is a wise dog around. Maya jumped to Yoon, she's shoulder. I won't mistake it this time. It's a smell from a real dog. In some sense, half of her kind was here. Not all cats or dogs could gain wisdom easily. The black demon dog was a good example. It gained wisdom because its bloodline was very special. As a power of a miracle, wisdom wasn't something that easy to born. Most creatures were unworthy of gaining wisdom, even if they were very strong, and that could even kill ordinary people easily. The lights of the White Lotus secret treasure were like keys, arousing the old bloodline in the creatures' bodies. However, if there were no special bloodlines in their bodies, the lights couldn't do anything to their brains. Almost all beings in the sword tip area obtained the lights from the secret treasure, but not too many common animals had gained wisdom from it. Be quick, master. Quickly, the smell of the dog is becoming weaker and weaker. Maya ran on the ground, leading Yunshi into a garden in an alley. Finally, Yunshi and Maya found the lucky little life behind a rockery. Chapter 358, Death and Rebirth. Quickly, Yunshi and Maya found the target under the rockery. It was an abandoned pet dog with a broken bell hanging on its neck. However, they came too late. Due to undernourishment, its black and white fur had become dim, and one of its paws seemed to be gnawed by something. There were several pieces of moldy bread in front of its crouched body, but it had no strength to move and could only look at the food with its helpless eyes. However, in its black pupils, they reflected the lights of wisdom. No, it's dying. Maya looked at it in surprise. She couldn't tell what kind of dog it was, but it must have a very special bloodline. Unfortunately, a special bloodline wasn't almighty. This dog should have fallen into this bad condition before it gained wisdom, and now it was just holding its last breath. Can't we save it? Yunshi took out a piece of his fourth-ranked bread and prayed that it could quickly refresh its life energy. The dog strenuously opened its mouth and ate the bread. Visible to the naked eye, its dried life was nourished and bright lights appeared in its eyes again. No, it's too late, Maya sighed. The dog's life had come to its end. Yunshi's bread could only momentarily recover its consciousness just before death. It knew it was slowly dying since several days ago, so it aroused its bloodline at the last moment by its own will. The will was an obsession. In order to accomplish something, it didn't mind what it would become. So it could hold on till this moment. After eating Yunshi's bread, it staggered to standing up, then dragged its dying body into its kennel. Yunshi could see that the kennel was well cleaned. There were warm and soft rice grasses in it, which could let it lay down comfortably. It will pass away. Looking at its bulging belly, Maya finally understood what made it hold out until this moment. Let's accompany her to the end of her life. Yunshi sent another piece of bread into the dog's mouth. Thank you, my children. I will leave them to you. The dog opened its hazy eyes wide as a drop of tear slowly dropped down from its face. It had a very common life. It was born in a pet shop and was bought by an aristocratic miss. It lived a very leisurely life in the first 6 to 7 years of its life. Till the miss was married, but her husband didn't like pet dogs, so it was abandoned. In the next 1 year, it became a homeless stray dog. In the first several months, because it looked cute and there was a bell on its neck, people were willing to feed it and the patrol didn't drive it away. However, as its fur gradually became dirty and its face became ugly, everyone became cruel to it. As a pet dog, it didn't know too much about the survival skills and the skill of looking for food alone. To make the matter worse, it was pregnant and its paw was hurt, which made it become harder to look for food. It could do nothing but dig in trash cans, eating the food that even common stray dogs wouldn't cast a look at. Shortly afterwards, the wound on its paw was become inflamed and its age was already very old. It foresaw the coming of its death and had to wait in this small kennel it just found. The mildewy bread was the last food it could find. Although it knew it was not likely, it still wanted to give birth to the little lives in its belly. Its death, like all the death of the common abandoned dogs, the only difference was it saw a light at the end of its life. The light dropped from the sky and offered it wisdom and a trace of special power. Using the trace of special power, it exerted all its energy, trying to connect to a special existence. It succeeded. Although it drained the last energy from its body. But it's worth it. It had seen the hope, it had seen the miracle. Its life had come to the end, but its children's lives had just started. They would inherit the power of bloodline from its body, they would have a bright future to run freely in the sunny world. If it was the Golden Princess, she must be able to cultivate my children to be great lives. It had had no regret in its life. It even didn't hate its master who abandoned it now. Oh, it really feels good to fill the belly. Goodbye, my children. The Golden Princess would be your new guardian. As its body twisted and a smell of blood spread in the air, the nameless dog's eyes gradually became gentle, looking at its 3 children who were just born. The first was a puppy with a cruciform pattern on its forehead, who looked charismatic. The second was a puppy with 3 fire-like patterns on its face, who looked logy. The last was a puppy whose body was as white as snow, smiling like an angel. Its bloodline was from an old world of ice and snow, and each of the 3 puppies inherited one of the features from its bloodline. Oh, it's warm. Click below to check out the ebook. Book 1, from C1 to C62, Book 2, from C62 to C144, Book 3, from C145 to C244, Book 4, from C245 to C315, Book 5, from C316 to C392. Chapter 359. This is the bud garden, it has gone. Yunshi sighed and closed his eyes. There isn't anything we can do. If it's several years younger, maybe I can still save it. Maya looked at its body and shook her head sadly. No wonder that the aura she felt was so weak. The dog had come to the end of its life. It was calling her by using the last of its life force. It was really a small miracle that it could hold on till she and Yunshi came. Woof. Woof. The 3 puppies still didn't know what happened. They stuck out their tongue helplessly, trying to hide into their mom's belly and find the milk in their memory of bloodline. Unfortunately, their mom had been drained. The bread it ate had all turned into energy in order to give birth to them. There was no milk in its drained body. The dog had died, and its body was becoming cold. The 3 puppies seemed to realize something, barking piteously around their mom. Since this is the last wish from a mom, let's take care of them. Yunshi picked up the 3 puppies in one hand and picked up their mom's body in the other hand, leaving the rockery quietly. After a while, he buried the dog and stood in front of its small grave, stroking the 3 puppies in his arms. This day, a life passed away, but 3 new lives came into this world. This was the miracle of the world, the circulation of life and death. Because there was their mom's smell on Yunshi's body, the 3 puppies quickly got used to him and stayed in his arms quietly. Master, I will teach them, Maya said confidently. Obviously, the 3 puppies were born with wisdom. Their potentials were much better than their mom, the dog who gained wisdom at the last moment of its life. In fact, Maya had given them 3 names. The first puppy with a cruciform pattern on its forehead was named Star Thunder. She had the strongest life force, and its body was also the biggest. The second puppy was named Starfire. Her character was lively, just like a ball of burning flame. The last puppy was named Star Snow. She was the smallest but also the most beautiful one, having snow-white fur and smiling eyes. Now, Maya had 3 little subordinates. Although they were still ignorant, Maya was confident in cultivating them to be useful dogs. Maya's team, the Star Spirit team, was born. At night, in the hall of the girls' dorm. Cheers! 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 Cheers, for White Lotus Sword Palace and our Starwing Knights. The girls of Starwing Knights were coming together, cheering and laughing. Because of their excellent performance in the entrance examination, these girls, who were very common at the beginning, were allowed to hold this small celebration in the hall. All kinds of cakes, desserts, dishes and juices were put on the long draw table, from the traditional dishes of the Western God's domain to the newest dish of the East God's domain. They met the requirements of all kinds of tastes. However, Mai's bread were still their favorite food. Especially the golden, sweet bread. Once Yunshi served them up from the kitchen, they would be quickly snapped up. That's an exaggeration. Looking at the smiling girls, Yunshi suddenly blushed. Because he finally realized a very embarrassing thing. As a maid in the eyes of the others, where should he live? In fact, he had realized it, he just tried to ignore it. In the White Lotus Sword Palace, the highest ranking school of the entire White Lotus Sword domain, their students would naturally live in the dorms. They weren't allowed to live outside. Well, because of this, their black-haired maid, Yun-shi, had been naturally arranged to live in the girls' dorm. Oh gosh! He had never imagined that one day, he could live in a dorm full of beautiful, cute girls. After all, this was a girls' dorm, there couldn't be any man. It was a garden of girls. Because they didn't need to stand a man's watch here, the girls here all behaved free, loose and easy. At this dinner party, several girls even came wearing their nightclothes. Through the gaps of their clothes, Yun-shi could easily see their tender, snow-white skins. Oh, my, your bread is delicious. Several girls of the Sword Palace first ate Yun-shi's bread. They blushed, showing a look as if they were at the summit of happiness. I don't remember putting anything strange in the bread, why do they look so intoxicated? Looking at their passionate eyes, Yun-shi felt that he just went wrong into a world that was female exclusive. The girls' dorm of the Sword Palace is also called the Bud Garden. Bud. The white bud that would spill out honey? Click below to check out the ebook. Chapter 360. The Star Spirit Team Hua Hua, you really played the devil with me. I don't even know where to go in such an environment. How can I hide my identity perfectly in front of so many eyes? Mai's bread is delicious. I want more. Xiao Cao picked half a bread and handed it to Yun-shi, behaving as if she was a puppy that needed to be fed. Hey, where is your young girl's sense of shame? Looking around, Yun-shi found that Xiao Cao wasn't the only girl who looked at him with longing. If this goes on, what can I do in later days? Midnight, the girls finally went back to their rooms. Cleaning the dishes in the dorm, Yun-shi considered whether he should escape from White Lotus Sword Domain as quick as possible. It would really become a very terrible thing if he stayed in such an environment all the time. No male could keep his calm in such a garden of beautiful girls. Yun-shi was also a common male. Although he thought that he was a good man who supported monogamy, how could he maintain and remain unwavering under these circumstances? Just now, the girls who walked around in their nightclothes were quite a few. Although they didn't drink, the stimulating beverages still made them open their hearts to each other, literally. How couldn't Yun-shi be thirsty and doubt his own life under this circumstance? No. I'm a good man. I must be straight. Yun-shi hypnotized himself, forcing the various flowers to leave his mind. The flower who had full breasts, smiling at him while holding a goblet. The flower who had a ponytail and looked healthy and lively. The flower who looked innocent and romantic. The flower who looked serious but often took a glance at him. In this garden, he was the only outlier. Realizing this truth was making him feel painful and unfortunate. Aga. The innocent young boy's cry resounded inside the empty dorm. Unfortunately, no one heard his cry. At the same time, in Yun-shi's room, there was a big blackboard on the wall of the room. Maya was standing on the table and wrote 2 words on the blackboard using her paw. Look here, look at these 2 words, this is your master's name, Yun-shi. It's more important than your names. You shall remember this name forever, and read it 100 times silently when you wake up every morning. Woof, woof, woof. The 3 puppies woofed and raised their paws. They couldn't speak, so they told Maya that they had remembered her words firmly in this manner. Very good. Star Thunder, Starfire, and Star Snow, remember, you are the members of the Great Star Spirit Team, you have a bright future. However, there was a prerequisite, you are the chosen children. In order to give birth to you, your mom sacrificed her own life. You must remember that your lives, your souls, and your everything are born for our master. Now, answer me, who is your master? Woof, woof, woof. The 3 puppies raised their paws again, pointing to the name on the blackboard. Yun-shi was the first person they saw after opening their eyes, and they smelt the smell of their mom from him. Naturally, they had regarded him as their most important person in the world. Just like Maya said, they could be born because Yun-shi fed their mom with the 4th-ranked bread. He gave their mom the energy to give birth to them. Maya reminded them that they should never forget this point, and remember his name, Yun-shi firmly. Good, you are all good children. Now, remember another point. Apart from your master, I, Maya, your senior, is the second person who can command you. Using her paw, Maya wrote her name under Yun-shi's name. Don't mistake me for a common golden dog, I'm a great star spirit. I'm the primordial golden princess. All the golden princesses in this world are just some common beings who look similar to me. Maya stuck out her chest. I'm not a battle-type star spirit, so I can't fight. However, I'm the messenger of the star's will, the fantasy creature who is blessed by the stars, the star spirit who can bring good luck to my master. Of course, her master's ex-girlfriends were too strong and terrible, even the stars couldn't protect him. Maya stood in silence for a minute for her master. What I will teach you is the truth of the universe, the knowledge from the stars, the guidepost that will guide your way of life. First, Star Thunder. Maya pointed at the biggest sister of the three puppies. Woof. Star Thunder straightened up, vague silver lights appeared on the crisscross pattern on her forehead. You have Thunder-type talent, so I named you Star Thunder. You will be the knight of our team, do you understand? Woof. Star Thunder wagged her tail with confidence in her eyes. Next, Starfire. Maya paused for a while, looking at Starfire, who was sticking out her tongue and looked at her own tail with an appetite. You can control the power of fire, you can launch a deadly blow to your enemy at any time, you can choose various careers, you are an all-powerful warrior. Woof. Woof. Starfire looked at Maya in confusion. Only God knew how much she had understood. The last, Star Snow. Woof. Your personality is quiet, and you have snow-type talent, so you can be a mage to dominate the battlefield. Star Snow smiled gently and confidently, like a little princess of ice and snow. Although her eyes were innocent, her smile looked a bit strange. After telling the three puppies their best combat styles and career choices, Maya looked at her star spirit team with satisfaction. The future is right in my paws. Once they grow up, they can be my master's great assistant. Click below to check out the ebook. Chapter 361, Triumph in the Skies. In the dead of the night, standing on the wall of the girls' dorm, Yunshi looked at the light shield, taking out the shell he got from Cassina hesitantly. The light shield was a protecting magic circle set by the hero-ranked mags of the Heaven's Road Palace. Even a mosquito couldn't fly through it. However, it was meaningless in front of Cassina's token, the shell. Yunshi just took out the shell from his pocket, then the light shield automatically dissolved and exposed a big hole in front of him. Perhaps only Yunshi had the privilege to go and leave the girls' dorm freely, where should be a forbidden zone of men. It's awesome. Looking at the shell that was emitting dim white lights, Yunshi felt the authority of his champion teacher, Cassina the sixth sky god again. The defense measures of the entire White Lotus Sword Palace performed practically no function in the front of Cassina's token. After climbing over the wall, Yunshi raised his head and looked into the distance, gazing at the sands of time in the starry sky. This floating ship was suspended not far away from the sky tower. Even if he was looking at it from thousands of meters away, the special shape of the ship and the vague lights surrounded it still made him feel dazzled, as if he was looking at a treasure in the desert. He looked carefully and finally found the road Cassina left for him. No, it was actually not a road, but just a thread that hung down from the sky. If it wasn't because of the light from the shell in his hands, he could barely find the fine thread in the darkness. Is this the only way? Looking at the thread that wasn't even thicker than his hair, he was dumbfounded. How could he climb up to the sands of time along this thin thread? Yes, it's a practice I made for you. Come on up, my cute disciple. Cassina's lazy voice came from the sky. Yunshi could imagine her dead drunk appearance. He had no choice but tried the tenacity of the thread first. 10% of his strength, 20%, till he used his full strength, he couldn't snap or break the thread that looked thin. He guessed what the material of the thread was, because he didn't think he could snap or break it even if his strength became 10 times stronger. The only problem was how to climb up to the floating ship along the thread now. He tried to grasp it, and immediately realized that it was a silly idea. When he grasped the thread and put his weight on it, the thread instantly became sharp and cut his hands open. No, I shouldn't use brute force, otherwise, I would hurt myself. After a while, he wrapped his palms with his clothes and tried again. It was operative, but after climbing up dozens of meters, he found that he wasted too much energy. Of course the thread wouldn't be able to hurt his palms now, but to put all his weight on his palms would consume his strength quickly. After climbing up dozens of meters, his palms had become sore. He didn't think that he could climb up thousands of meters using this method. He slid down from the sky and sat on the ground, thinking of a better method to climb the thread. No common idea could help him. Generally, a human couldn't climb up to the sky along the thread with their bodies of flesh and blood, unless they had reached the hero rank. Of course, Hua was an exception. She could fly. Cassina wouldn't give him a problem that couldn't be solved. There must be an answer, but what's the key to finding it out? He grasped the thread again, which was so thin and tough that it could even be used as a murder weapon. A cold feeling came from his palm. Yunshi pulled the thread, finding that it had an amazing flexibility. Flexibility. Soft. A vague idea flashed through his mind. He pulled the thread with a stronger strength. Gah. Gah. Strange sounds came from the thread as it was lengthened. Can it be? Looking at the thread, Yunshi was speechless. Yes, the key to solve Cassina's test was soft. Not to use brute force, but to use the property of the thread, which was soft. After cleaning his mind, Yunshi started to make tools. He fixed the thread between two big trees, making it be a big slingshot on the ground, and fixed the center of the string on the third tree. Gah, 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 gah. The thread emitted strange sounds. Although it's said that by embracing the wind, even a pig can fly. But, it's too surreal. Standing in the center of the special slingshot, he didn't know what he should say now. Shuffle. Yunshi brandished his sword and smashed the third tree. The powerful elastic force instantly sent him into the sky. The frightening acceleration even made him lose hearing temporarily. He crouched his body subconsciously, flying into the sky like a cannonball. No. Suddenly, he found that he made an arithmetical error. If he kept flying, he would pass through the sands of time from the air dozens of meters away. If so, he would drop to the ground miserably. Ding! In the nick of time, his twin swords flew out the sheaths themselves and flew under Yunshi's feet. Stepping on the swords, he narrowly arrived at the floating ship. Not good, not bad, just so-so. I give you 80 points. The next practice is to do it again. Click below to check out the ebook. Chapter 362. The new talent. Cassina spoke and held the goblet in her hand and looked up at the moon. Then Yunshi's miserable fate had been determined. He didn't even know what hit him when his twin swords flew out of his hands and stuck into the floor of the floating ship. He himself was kicked off the ship by some unknown force, dropping to the ground from thousands of meters high in the sky. Aga. The sense of weightlessness made him emit a sad cry. I will die. I will die. Without the twin swords, I would dash my brains out on the ground. Shuffle. When Yunshi was about a dozen of meters away from the ground, the thread suddenly moved and formed a web that was full of flexible threads, catching his falling body in the air, and barely stopped when he was only a few centimeters away from the ground. Then, his body was bounced into the sky again. Woo! He didn't expect to see the softness of the thread in this manner. Rolling around in a lot of threads in the air, and bounced up and down for dozens of times, he finally stood on the ground, gasping for air. The web returned to its initial form, the thread again. This is soft. Yunshi experienced how special the thread was with his own body. Do it again. Your creativity isn't bad. Cassina's lazy voice came from the sky, telling him that he didn't do wrong. The only mistake he made was to borrow strength from the twin swords. Cassina didn't like to see him pull through the difficulty by using the pair of top-level spirit weapons. What a strict teacher. Yunshi pulled the thread and calculated the parameters the super slingshot he would make. Wind, acceleration, and inertia. Failure is the mother of success. From the experience before, he knew how to develop a new super slingshot to shoot himself into the sky. Compared to the first shoddy slingshot, this one was more sophisticated. He even knitted the thread, increasing the elasticity of the slingshot several times. He had no clue what the material of the thread was made of. No matter how strong a strength he used, it wouldn't break. It was really a treasure. Okay. I think it's done now. Again, he stood in the center of the new super slingshot. Human cannonball, fire, bang. Yunshi's body was shot into the sky like an arrow. This time, He flew to the sky that was even hundreds of meters taller than the floating ship, the Sands of Time. Right now, looking down at the floor of the Sands of Time, his body nimbly turned around in the air. He wasn't holding a sword in his hand, but there was a sword in his heart. Flying swallow sword. Like a swallow flying in the sky, he overcame gravity and gently landed on the floor of the Sands of Time, looking at Cassina, who was sitting on the throne leisurely. 99 points. Cassina drank the poisonous wine from Hydra and praised him with a satisfied air. Undoubtedly, her new disciple, Yunshi, had a great talent. In the past, even her best disciple couldn't climb up to the floating ship before trying dozens of times. Different people had different ideas. There wasn't an exact answer to solve this problem. Yunshi's method was the most imaginative of all. She didn't give him 100 points, because she didn't want him to be too proud. Lie down and practice the treasure ship style 1,000 times. Be quick. Cassina pleasingly put her toes on the ground and stepped onto Yunshi's back. Everything was as smooth as floating clouds and flowing water. Before Yunshi saw her moving, he had felt her weight on his back and was forced to leave his hands off the ground for a support. Very well, your body just became better. Sitting on his back, Cassina drank and urged him to practice the treasure ship style. I see, what else could he say when it was such a strong and capricious teacher? Cassina said that his body had become better. Yunshi himself also noticed it. When he met the black demon dog, he entered the killing princess mode and his mind firmly remembered the feeling of controlling each muscle and blood cell of his body. Even though he could only repeat 1/10 of the special mode now, it was still an amazing treasure. The killing princess indeed left him a very valuable treasure. The memory that was hiding deep within his body was activated now. Contract his muscles, and loosen them. Control the rhythm of his breathing, and the beat of his heart. Originally, the knowledge could only be learned after repeating the same practice thousands of times. But now, they were flowing into his mind naturally. Oh, very good. Keep going. Sitting on his back, Cassina knew the movement of his every muscle. She found that her disciple quickly learned the skill of the treasure ship style. He was still a bit inexperienced at first, but quickly got himself into it. In Cassina's eyes, he didn't look like a newbie who only practiced the treasure ship style one night, but like a man who had practiced it countless days and nights. This was the so-called talent, the talent about practicing. After repeating the treasure ship style for 1,000 times, Yunshi gasped for air. Sweat broke out all over his body. He could clearly feel that Cassina became 2 times heavier than before when the practice was drawing to an end. If he didn't use the skill he learned from the memory of the killing blood, he would have laid on his stomach like a dead body. Good. You have mastered the skill of the treasure ship style. The next is to increase the training intensity. Cassina squinted at him, who was probably the most excellent disciple of hers. It's time to teach you the third style. Chapter 363, The Swing Style, the Third Style? Wiping away the sweat on his forehead, Yunshi felt that his body had been exhausted. Practicing the treasure ship style 1,000 times was already his limit. It wasn't possible to study any new style now. There are 7 basic styles in the battle god genre, and it'd be better to master them as soon as possible. You have great talent, but to learn the third style you must have a strong will too. Looking at Yunshi, Cassina also considered whether it was too early to teach him the third style. In the past, her best disciple learned the third style after practicing the treasure ship style a week. Can I become strong after learning the third style? Yunshi took a deep breath and looked at Cassina seriously. In order to have a wonderful future, in order to escape away from his 4 ex-girlfriends, he pursued powers. Even though the stars had pointed out a road for him, which could let him become stronger and stronger as long as he kept experiencing the trial worlds. However, it wasn't enough. He had a strong sense of crisis in his heart. Therefore, even though his body had groaned with pain, he still wanted to try it now. Yes, the third style can greatly help you improve your physique, but it's really a harsh trial for you. Because there isn't an upper limit when talking about its difficulty. A mysterious smile appeared on the corners of Cassina's mouth. It was really rare to find such an enterprising disciple. Most people with great talents were proud and arrogant, including her previous disciples. They couldn't understand the meaning of doing basic training. Now, she found a new pleasure in her life, that was to cultivate this new disciple and wait for him to grow up. Then one day, he would be able to challenge his predecessors, her previous disciples whose fame had spread far and wide. I will do it. She ground his teeth. Regardless that his body was protesting with aching pain, he stood up steadily. After the limit practice in the valley, his soul had been reborn. His body was improved, and his will too. He believed that he could accomplish Cassina's special training, even though it was obviously much more difficult and dangerous. Okay, then let's start. I can tell you, none of your previous predecessors accomplished the third style perfectly. Cassina looked at her poor disciple, who was trying to challenge the third style without even knowing anything about it. Even his predecessors, her disciples who had reached the hero rank, didn't want to remember the experience of practicing this again. May I ask the name of the third style? She raised his hand. He suddenly had an ominous presentiment. I named it the swing style. Cassina smiled with expectation. She gently stretched out her hand and pulled out a thread from her ear. Gee! She looked at the thread in surprise. Undoubtedly, it was the same thread that hung down from the floating ship. Can the thread be just a strand of her hair? Shuffle. Before he reacted, the thread had bound his waist. Listen, the swing style follows the rule of the ring of all things. You need to experience the limit of softness in the endless circular rings. And remember, it will be a test to your physique. Before you lose consciousness, it won't stop. Before she understood the meaning of it, his body had been thrown out. Puff! In the violent wind, he lost the control of his body, flying in the air like a kite. And this was just the beginning of his hell. Shuffle. The boundary between sky and earth became nebulous in his eyes. His stomach twisted, because he was experiencing a terrible acceleration that ordinary people could never withstand. Spinning around the sands of time, he started to practice the swing style, which really should be called endless circling motion. At first, he could still move his hands and legs, trying to adjust the balance of his body. Then, he ground his teeth, trying to preserve bearing. Soon afterwards, he felt dazzled and saw illusions in his sight. The name swing style deceived him, although it looked really like swinging in the air. However, when it was swinging on a strand of hair, spinning around a ship that was suspended in the sky that was thousands of meters high, it wasn't enjoyable at all. Moreover, it was accelerating. In the 10th round, Yunshi thought that he had seen the world of the afterlife, where he was surrounded by countless golden stars. Well, he's created a new record. Looking at him, Cassina praised. Her best disciple before could only hold on 7 rounds. He had experienced 10 rounds and was still up and running. It seemed that he hadn't reached his limit. Well, why don't we challenge a higher threshold? Cassina snapped, then the floating ship moved bit by bit, flying to the sky above. From thousands of meters high to tens of thousands of meters high, the swing style didn't have a limit. If she wanted, she could even let the ship fly out of the atmosphere, making him experience the planet swinging. Of course, he was still a mortal, he couldn't breathe after leaving the atmosphere, so she didn't really consider this alluring idea seriously. Aga. Although his eyes were bleary, he still immediately felt the increase in the speed. His stomach turned flips, and his mind finally went blank in the 18th rounds. Very well, a new record. Taking him aboard, Cassina kicked his body and murmured with satisfaction. The next second, her god weapon, gravel-like lights diffused from the sword the sands of time and fell onto Yunshi's body. Chapter 364. The Gravel of Time. The Sands of Time was the only known sky sword about the rules of time. It was inherited in Cassina's desert tribe from generation to generation, which was said that it could reverse time. After becoming the 6th sky sword, Cassina inherited it from the previous clan elder. However, she never used it in battle. Many people doubted if Cassina could really use the real power inside of this god weapon. After all, the rules of time were mysterious. It was a realm that even gods couldn't easily set foot in. However, as long as any people saw this scene, they would understand that Cassina was the sword's veritable master. Undoubtedly, the gravel-like lights were the power of the sands of time. Stepping her bare feet onto Yunshi's body, Cassina checked his changes after practicing. His physique was improved 3%, the flexibility of his body was improved 5%, and his bone and nerves were improved by 1%. If scholars saw this data, they would go crazy. Theoretically, humans couldn't improve their bodies so much after just practicing for a night. It was a miracle. In fact, Yunshi's body had reached the peak of the 3rd rank in the water god's world. He just couldn't be compared to the monsters like Hua, but was far better than ordinary people. The 3 styles Cassina taught him helped him increase the speed to surpass the limit of flesh and blood. The sands of time, tell me the lifetime of my disciple, Cassina ordered her sky sword in a casual tone. One of the abilities of her sky sword, the sands of time, was to predict the lifetime of any target in front of it. Of course, it just judged the lifetime of the target from the target's current life force. If the target was killed or died by disease in the future, it wouldn't be able to predict these accidents. Before reaching the hero rank, mortals could only live about 100 years. Very few people could live 150 years even if their genes were very excellent, but their lifetimes couldn't be higher. After reaching the hero rank, the number would become different from person to person. According to their conditions when entering the hero rank and the practicing roads they had chosen, the highest record of a lifetime was 10,000 of years, and the shortest was 3 years. The person whose lifetime was 10,000 of years was because of his bloodline. One of the person's ancestors was a long-lived creature. The person who could only live 3 years was because he used a very special method to break through the barrier between the mortal rank and the hero rank, which caused an untreatable sequela inside of his body. Most people who used forbidden methods to enter the hero rank knew the cost they would pay very well. But sometimes, for some purposes, they didn't mind to paying with the cost of their lives. The gravel on Yunshi's body started trembling. Cassina never saw such a weird scene before. Why is it so difficult to predict my disciple's lifetime? Cassina looked at Yunshi in confusion. Generally, it wouldn't take the sword a second to give her the answer. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes later, the sands on the ground arranged and formed a number, which really shocked Cassina. 3 months. You must be kidding me. Cassina lightly kicked Yunshi's body. She didn't feel any wound, illness, or curse in or on his body. He was just exhausted because of excessive fatigue, but, at any rate, it wouldn't shorten his life to only 3 months. While Cassina doubted, the gravel moved on the ground again. This time, the chaos was longer. After 10 minutes, they formed a new number. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was such a large number that Cassina didn't believe her eyes. The entire history of the endless gods' domains was like nothing compared to that number. How could that be a mortal's life? Hey, what does this mean? Even the so-called immortal gods can't have such a long life. Cassina didn't believe it at all. Shuffle. Finally, the gravel on the ground stopped moving and became lifeless again. Oh, my sword is so unreliable. Cassina rubbed her forehead. It seemed that it made a mistake again. She didn't use the sands of time in battle, because she knew how unreliable the power of time was. Only the people who really knew the rules of time understood how hard it was to use this power. It seemed powerful to predict future, stop or accelerate time, but once they made any mistake, the result would be disastrous. The things living beings could see through the river of time weren't something that human brains could understand. For example, Ouroboros could see the future from the river of time, but it couldn't gauge the correct time. Maybe it was a thing that would happen a year later, but it could also happen after 100,000 years. Ordinary people could only live about 100 years. Even if they knew a thing that would happen 100,000 years later, what could they do? Even if they recorded it, they wouldn't know the people after 100,000 years would see it. 3 months, or longer than the history of the endless gods' domains, Cassina was speechless. What a strange disciple. Maybe it was because Hydra had found it a long time ago, so she chose him to be her bride. Otherwise, it was hard to explain why a god would have a partiality for a common human young boy. Chapter 365, The Battle Gods Gift Woe. It's amazing. Sitting on Yunshi's back, she poked his acupuncture points, stimulating his body function, and thought of the advanced practicing plan. If the worst situation happened, and Yunshi really had only 3 months of life, what could she do to change this? The sands of time just predicted the target's lifetime by judging the target's life force. It was a theoretical value but not an irreversible prophecy. In fact, most people couldn't live for 100 years, so the theoretical value would only be established in the most perfect state. 3 months or shorter. Is there any imperceptible defect in his body? No, I don't think so. His body is perfect. Cassina started to consider how she could help her disciple. Her soft body had reached the acme of perfection. As a martial artist who knew the human body far better than anyone, she didn't think that Yunshi's body had any defect. On the contrary, his physique was the best amongst all her disciples. This was also one of the most important reasons why she wanted him to be her disciple. If it wasn't because of his body, then there should be another reason. Maybe there are problems about his mentality, soul, or natal horoscope. Looking at Yunshi's sleeping face, Cassina guessed. Mentality was a basic to study magic. Cassina heard that some people who had a natural autism could obtain strong mentality naturally. However, their minds were also easy to break down, because their bodies couldn't handle the burden of such a strong mind. Soul was a mystery of the universe, just like the rules of time. Even gods couldn't interfere with it too much. Natal horoscope was a person's fate. There were always special people or heroes appearing in the river of history, who could change their fates by exceeding many people's expectations. For the people who had the emperor natal horoscope, it was much easier to become an emperor than anyone else, and the people who had the death natal horoscope were doomed to be lonely all their life. Even Cassina herself had the natal horoscope called Battle God. However, Cassina wasn't good in these realms, therefore, she couldn't say if Yunshi had some problem with his mentality, soul, or natal horoscope. But if he didn't have any problem, how would her sword say that he could only live for 3 months? Fortunately, in the long history, there were always some special geniuses who had these problems too, and there were thousands of cases about how to solve the illness of the soul. Geniuses were valuable treasures, therefore, there were always forces who would do everything to heal them. In history, in order to help the geniuses who had the same problems, countless forces tried various methods to cure the illnesses of the soul. Some of them didn't even mind using a forbidden skill that would sacrifice 1 million ordinary people. I think it's a problem about his soul. Cassina hesitated, then put down a shell onto Yunshi's chest. So, I will give you this. Even to me, it's a unique treasure. Don't disappoint me, my disciple. Countless sand dropped from Cassina's sword, the sands of time, and gathered to the shell, forming a light hourglass-like pattern on it. It was Cassina's identity. In order to help Yunshi solve the problem of his soul, she conferred unto him her identity. Anyway, I don't need to go to that place anymore. You should be able to find some treasures to cure your soul there. Don't waste it. Oh, Yunshi woke up. He felt that his body was relaxed and his chest felt warm. He could smell a trace of the bouquet of wine from his mouth. He sat up and looked around, finding that he was sitting on the ground, and the floating ship was nowhere. He heard Cassina's voice beside his ears. My cute disciple, that's all for today. You did well. I need to leave for now, and the next training will start 3 days from now. Try to get used to your improved physique before that. Oh, and I left a gift for you. Remember to hold the shell in your hands and repeat open the sky tower 3 times when you sleep. Something fantastic will happen after that. I was planning to give you this after you entered the hero rank, but you behaved good, so I will give it to you now. Don't feel shy to praise your generous teacher. Oh, and I have erased the side effects of the practice using the sands of time. The next training will be much harder, please prepare yourself. Oh, that's really generous. Yunshi retorted and looked at his chest. On the white shell, there was an hourglass-like pattern. Is it Cassina's gift? Open, the sky tower sounds like a secret signal. What does it mean? With doubts in his heart, he stood up and stealthily returned to his room in the girls' dorm. On the way, he understood the improvements the swing style had brought for him. My speed is 5% faster, and my flexibility is increased 3%, or more. My bones and nerves are improved by 1%. Apart from these, Nothing has been changed. Yunshi checked his body with a strange look. Is it because of the talent of the soft body? His body was already very close to the limit of ordinary humans. Even 1% was an amazing change, not to mention 5%. The improvement in his speed and flexibility were easy to understand, but his bones and nerves were also improved by 1%. He was actually developing into a non-human. Chapter 366. One day in the life of the maid Mai. 1. In the White Lotus Sword Palace, the beginning of Mai's day started from the first light of the day shining on his bed. Puff, it's time to get up. There was no clock in his room, but his body naturally understood what time it was. 3 o'clock, he returned from Cassina's room. After that, he rested on the bed for about 3 hours, therefore, it should be 5:45 a.m. now. Woof. The big sister of the 3 sisters, Star Thunder, ran to him and licked his face. He had gotten permission from the dormitory attendant so that he could keep the 3 puppies in his room. Good morning, Star Thunder. Yunshi kissed the little puppy. Woof. Starfire retorted with a vague bark. Although it still laid on the bed and didn't want to move at all. Good morning, Starfire. Yunshi picked her up from the bed and kissed this naughty little rascal too. Oh, and you, don't stay up late. Start Snow didn't sleep all night, because she was trying to practice a special meditation. In order to let the dormitory attendant allow him to adopt the 3 puppies, he really did a lot. Finally, all the girls of the Starwing Knights and Hua interceded for him, so he could obtain the approval from the dormitory attendant. Originally, students were never allowed to keep pets in the dorms. Come here and eat bread. Be good today, don't make any troubles. Putting bread and water into their dog dish, Yunshi looked at them with a smile. Star Thunder was sedated. Her speed of eating and drinking was fast, just like a natural knight. Starfire drank the water in a hurry, then picked up the bread running around in the room. It was hard to understand what she was thinking. Star Snow quietly bit the bread, behaving like an aristocratic miss. After they finished eating, there was still 5 minutes left before 6 o'clock. Yunshi started to check his clothes. The maid uniform could clean itself automatically, therefore, he didn't really need to wash it even after it became dirty. It's not like me. Looking at the mirror, Yunshi sighed. The girl in the mirror can't be me. The disguise was so perfect that even he himself couldn't see the difference. After practicing the 3 styles he learned from Cassina, his soft body became even better, which also made his natural beauty of life became more gorgeous, but it wasn't good news to him at all. It doesn't matter, Yunshi. You are just pretending to be a maid, it won't be a long torment. The Sword Palace is just a starting point. Once I understand how to master the power of the hero rank, I can escape from this place. Be patient, be patient. Don't divert your attention to the White Lotus secret treasure, just leave it to Hua. Once I obtain the power of the hero rank, I can obtain my real freedom. I won't need to worry about being found by my ex-girlfriends. Yes, this is the plan. Just keep going, Yunshi. He patted his cheeks and pumped up himself, speaking his great plan loud in the silent room. At the beginning of the day, his first quest was to perform his most important task of staying here, at least, Hua said so, that was to wake up his childhood sweetheart every day. Hua, are you awake? Knocking on Hua's door, he didn't hear any sound. He sighed and pushed open the unlocked door. He had expected it. As long as Hua told him to wake her up, she never got up before he came and never locked the door of her room. In the eyes of other people, Hua was a perfect genius. Only he knew her graceless side. He could clearly see that her childish nightclothes was inside out, and her sleeping posture was also very strange. Half of her body was on the bed and the other half was on the floor. Yunshi didn't understand how she could keep sleeping in this strange posture. Confess leniently, resistance severely. Little she, did you play with other girls when I wasn't watching? Hua murmured in her sleep, which made him break out in a cold sweat. Hua was like a prophet when it was about his relationship with other girls. When Yunshi was going to leave their small town stealthily, as if she had predicted it, Hua came to his room and stopped him. After that, he had to be her maid Mai. Goo, hey hey. My, you are my possession, no one can take you away. Beating down all the disciples in the Sword Palace and announcing my ownership of you, then no one would dare to get close to you. What a perfect plan. Hey, Hua, I heard what you were saying. Of course, Hua didn't really try to hide her childish plan from the beginning. Puff, puff. Little she, don't leave me, don't go anywhere, otherwise, even if you run to the remotest corner of the world, I will catch up with you. Oh, what can I do? I don't know what to do with you. Yunshi poked Hua's soft cheeks with his fingers and woke her up. Chapter 367, One Day in the Life of the Maid Mai, 2, Goo Hey Hey. Being poked by Yunshi's fingers, Hua didn't look like she would wake up. She turned over and went back to sleep. She hasn't grown up at all. Only at this time, Yunshi could see the other side of his sparkling, unrivaled childhood sweetheart. Yes, although Hua was a super genius, who even dared to challenge an entire world, she often slept late in the morning. Especially when she told Yunshi to wake her up, she would never get up herself, which was not like a lady at all. Yunshi even smelled the bouquet of wine in the air. Undoubtedly, she drank last night. Although she was underage, she had done this more than once. Just like eagles don't catch flies, does being a hero need to mean not to be a stick in the mud? If she kept going like this and no one stopped her, she would become a wine bibber, drinking all day, just like a useless middle-aged uncle. Even so, she was still a genius who could drink on the battlefield and defeat her enemies at the same time. Suddenly, the appearance of a dirty and untidy bearded swordmaster appeared in his mind. No, that can't be Hua. Moreover, she was only 16 years old. From the beginning, no one is allowed to drink at this age. Hua, wake up. Don't drink too much. How can you drink on the first day of school? In the entire Sword Palace, no, in the entire world, only Yunshi dared to say this to her. In his memory, even Hua's parents never scolded her, which was too respectful as parents. Remembering this, Yunshi wondered in his heart. Her parents didn't look like her parents at all. How can they have the same bloodline as Hua? They didn't even dare to blame her for anything. When they saw Yunshi criticizing Hua, he only saw surprise in their eyes. But Hua was a common girl too. She would be angry, jealous, and lazy sometimes. Yunshi never considered her as a monster, even after knowing how strong she was. Hua was his best childhood sweetheart, the cutest and most excellent girl in the small town. This was his view of her in his eyes. He understood her better than anyone. He knew why she was always confident. The confidence was due to her true power. Her talent was so great that even though her growth was endless, he didn't even doubt whether she could reach the legend rank in the future, standing on the same stage with Hydra and Cassina. Of course, even so, it's not right to drink at the age of 16. Hiccup. Hua belched. No. I must do something. Yunshi regretted. If I knew this, I wouldn't have done that at that time. Yes, Yunshi invited Hua to drink the first cup of wine in her life. At that time, they were playing the game Playing House. He mistook the red wine used to make bread with juice and let her drink it. As a child, Hua drank after only taking a few sips. She caught him and forced him to hold the marriage ceremony. That day, he tried his best to resist her, but failed eventually and was forced to do a lot of things he never wanted to remember. After that, Hua had the bad habit of drinking. Although she always drank secretly, Yunshi could always figure out when she drank and how much she had drunk. If she only drank red wine, he could turn a blind eye to it. However, he couldn't endure this. She must have drunk high wine last night, otherwise, she wouldn't still be sleeping now and even talking in her dreams. Hua, you are foul. Taking a deep breath, he stopped poking her face. This trick couldn't wake up a person who was drunk. Slowly and softly, Yunshi went close to her ear and whispered the forbidden spell. Hua. In fact, the girl I like is, who is she? Who is she? Who is she? Tell the truth and you will receive a lighter sentence. Tell me, is she Yi Li, El Phyllis, or Millie? No, can she be that vixen? Instantly, Hua opened her eyes and looked around. The jealousy radar on her forehead had started running. In a tizzy, she finally realized that she was in her room and there was no enemy here. She finally let out a sigh of relief. She would never relax her vigilance. They were also little she's childhood sweethearts, so they would be her enemies forever. She knew how gentle his character was and how appealing he was to girls. She even found that he once considered marrying one of them in the past. Why do I know this? It wasn't because I peeked in his diary. Yes, as the inheritor of the exalted sky-flying bloodline, how would I do this? It was just because the wind was strong that day and rolled up the pages of his diary. As for the fact that the diary was originally hidden in the deepest side of the bookshelf and wrapped by the cover of another book, let's just ignore that. Why did it suddenly appear on the desk? Why was there a wind that could accidentally roll up the pages? And why did it return to its original place after that? It must be the will of the universe, the great power of the world. Chapter 368. One Day in the Life of the Maid. 3. Good morning, love. Are you awake? Yunshi put his hands on his waist and looked at Hua Hua with a strange smile. Maybe only at this time, he could gain the upper hand in front of his incredible childhood sweetheart. Whoa. Hua Hua first sat stunned for a while, then held her pillow tightly and finally realized what the situation was. I wasn't drunk. She pretended to be innocent. Only when facing Yunshi could she be so overwhelmed. After all, she swore in front of him that I will never secretly drink wine again. Of course, just like people often said I will be moderate in eating tomorrow or I will go to sleep after winning this game, she couldn't keep her promise either. Last night, she couldn't help but sneak out and buy and drink a lot of alcoholic drinks, returning to her room drunk. The magic circles of the Sword Palace could prevent malicious people, but couldn't stop Hua Hua from coming in. They were nothing but air, lights and strange patterns on the ground in her eyes. Hua Hua, don't lie. Yunshi stretched out his finger and touched Hua Hua's lips, then put his finger onto his nose. As a hero-ranked baker, even if she had rinsed her mouth 10 times, he could distinguish what wine she had drunk. Tequila? Hua Hua, don't you know how strong the effect of tequila is? Yunshi confirmed that his childhood sweetheart had become a hard drinker. Whoa. No. I only took a sip. Just a sip. It's true. Hua Hua looked at him with a pathetic look, just like a little cat who was caught doing something wrong. A sip. Yunshi didn't believe her words at all. Even though it was tequila, a sip of this wine couldn't get her drunk. In Celian, Black Moon, the cold dark elf, the prototype of the commander of his Mist Soul army was drunk after drinking several bottles of tequila, and did that with him. No. Stop remembering that now. He quickly shook his head. He didn't want to remember her in front of Hua Hua. The thing that happened that day was like a key to the tight door in his heart. After that, he found that he gradually couldn't control his desire, and this caused him troubles later on. Oh, tequila is a bad wine. I should never touch it. Hua Hua, don't do that again. Remember, as a genius and a beautiful girl, it's wrong to drink too much. Yunshi subconsciously started his homily. Although he was still wearing the maid uniform, the atmosphere around him made him look serious. Listening to his long homily, she only wanted to cry. Oh, there won't be a next time. I won't let you find out again. Not surprisingly, she wasn't going to stop drinking. Will she really become a female sword master who doesn't know to take care of herself in daily life? Looking at Hua Hua's face, Yunshi started to worry about her future. Her attitude really made him worry a lot. If she could be more modest and stop drinking, she would be a more perfect female sword master. After waking her up and offering her his bread, he started to walk around in the dorm. He didn't do it on purpose because it was just a casual walk. 2/3 of the girls in this dorm were members of the Starwing Knights, the remaining girls were also excellent students. Apparently, the Sword Palace tried to set up a typical example, so the dormitory attendant allowed him to adopt the 3 puppies. They must think that to gather so many excellent girls together would form a spotlight effect. Walking in the hallway, Yunshi quietly thought in his heart. "Mai, can you do me a favor?" He heard a familiar voice. Looking up, he saw the name on the door plate on his right side. Oh, it was Hua Yu's room. What can I do for you? He naturally opened the unlocked door and went into her room. The next second, he regretted it. Hua Yu's room was just like her impression in his heart. It was full of the style of the Western god's domain. Whether the gorgeous ceiling, or the candy box-like ornaments, or the expensive hand-made wool carpet on the ground, they all showed that this was a room of an aristocratic miss. But they were not the reason for his regret. The leader of the Starwing Knights, Hua Yu herself, was the reason. Under the light of the morning sun, Hua Yu was trying to button the band on her back. The skin of her back was exposed in the air, making him feel embarrassed. Although she was sitting with her back to him, from the large floor mirror in front of her, he could clearly see the shapes of her breasts. Oh, it's annoying that my breasts have become bigger. I can barely button the band. My, help me. If Lulu or Hua Hua heard the trouble in her words, they would go crazy. Gulp. Yun she swallowed. In fact, he was really shocked by the size of the troubles on her chest. What should I do now? Chapter 369, The Holy Beetle Question 1. In the face of an unsuspecting prey, what should I do? This was a big problem in the eyes of the 16-year-old energetic young boy. Question 2. In the face of the girl who trusts me and wants me to help her, should I turn a blind eye at this time? This was the question in the eyes of the maid who served these girls. If he chose the standard answer for the first question, he would become a beast. If he chose the right answer of the second question, he would be an excellent maid. Whoa. It shouldn't be so hard to make a choice. I must become an upright gentleman. In his mind, the avatar of his desire and the avatar of his honesty were having a heavy fight. Ah! Suddenly, Hua Yu exclaimed, and this broke the balance of the battle in his heart. Go! 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 His desire turned into a black devil, yelling at him with excitement. How can you call yourself a man if you draw back at this time? Let's go and see what is happening. His honesty turned into the appearance of the killing princess and said straightly, Is there any other choice? Yunshi felt that he just walked up to an important crossroad in his life. You don't have any choice. It's impolite to turn a blind eye to such a beautiful girl, the devil said in his heart. Be quick. The killing princess gazed at him with an indifferent look. Why isn't there an option that can let me be a person of integrity? Yunshi sighed and walked to Hua Yu's back in a sad mood. What's wrong? His fingers softly touched her tender skin. After being possessed by the sky sword in the water god's world, Hua Yu's temperament had become much more leisurely and confident, and the handfeel of her skin was much more smoothly. If she announced that her identity was a princess from the Western god's domain, no one would doubt her words. It's a bug. A bug just flew into my clothes. Hua Yu's shoulder shivered, looking like she was enduring something. She wouldn't show such an expression in front of others. As the inheritor of the old white golden rose bloodline, she was raised as a noble since her childhood. She was as proud as a princess, and as confident as a prince. Her character was totally different from Hua Hua, looking more like an unattainable flower than anyone. Only in front of she didn't mind exposing the effeminacy of her heart. Just like the most beautiful white golden rose in the garden, she was emitting the most colorful light of her life. It wasn't a skill she had learned, but was a talent she was born with. Her instinct made her hear the footsteps of Yunshi, then her hand lightly trembled and the clothes half dropped from her body. Why did that happen? It must be the miracle called fate. A bug. Yunshi's body became stiff. It was really a big problem for both of them. I feel that it just dropped into my dress. Help me. Hua Yu's hands covered her big rabbits on her chest and showed her back to him. Okay. Yunshi was so embarrassed that he wanted to cry. Why don't know any magic that can drive away bugs? Stretching out his hands, he searched for the bug. His fingers touched her snow-white skin, feeling the softness he didn't really dare to imagine where it was from. Sitting half-naked, Hua Yu closed her eyes shyly, just like a rose that was waiting to be picked. I found it. Being tormented by a sense of guilt, he finally caught the restless bug and drew back his hands from Hua Yu's dress. Oh, it's really a ferocious beetle. How did it fly into the girls' dorm? From the 6 golden spots on its shell, it should be a beetle. Thank you, Mai. Let it go. Looking at the struggling beetle in Yunshi's hand, she said with mercy. Okay. Looking at the strange bug in confusion, he opened the window and threw it out. Recently, I always feel that my chest becomes tight. After the minor episode, Yu naturally started to chat with Yunshi. Since he even touched her skin, it wouldn't be a problem to help her button her band. Even he himself felt surprised that he got used to it so easily. Is this the problem, having a pair of big breasts? He tried his best not to look at her breasts through the mirror. Yes, it troubles me every day, but I can't solve it. When I study sword skill, they are really a pair of burdens. It's not easy to adjust the balance of my body with them. You needed her big white rabbits with emotion. I see. But, you must have drunk a lot of papaya milk so that they could become so big. Yunshi said, judging her recipes as a hero-ranked baker. You know it well, Mai. At any rate, it's important to ensure nutrition. Milk and papaya all taste good. Yu said with a sweet smile, talking about the topics of girls with him. After Yunshi left the room, Yu pushed open the window and looked at the beetle, who was staying on a leaf without moving. The holy beetle is expensive, but it's worth the price. Yu whistled. Immediately, the beetle flew to her and hid in her clothes. Chapter 370, Dragon Plant. Tumbling out of Yu's room, Yunshi ran to the garden of the quartile. The floor area of the girls' dorm was large, one after another small but floried building formed a garden-like beautiful scene. The quartile connected all the buildings. It was a veritable large garden. One after another big tree surrounded the garden like guardians of the dorm. Under the morning sunlight, the quartile looked vibrant. Pigeons clucked on the trees and woodpeckers pecked the trunks. A lizard scrambled through a pile of leaves, making murmurous noises. Suddenly, a gust of wind came from the field and went across the trees, shaking the leaves with shuffling sounds. The warm sunlight shined on the stone tables and stone benches under the trees, and under the surface of the sparkling water, several small fish were swimming in the pool leisurely. Everything looked beautiful and peaceful. Puff, puff, puff. Pressing his hand on the trunk of a 10 meters tall tree, Yunshi tried to clear his mind. If he stayed in the room longer, he didn't know what he would do. The image of Yu's full breasts still haunted him in his mind, which was so hard to forget. Are they the reason she was chosen to be the leader of the Starwing Knights? He didn't understand the judging criteria of girls, but he guessed that Yu's full breasts must be a huge plus when the girls chose her to be their leader. If the size of breasts could be converted into combat power, apart from Ling Ling, other girls would be beating down instantly. What did she eat to be so well nourished at this age? The Lamia Queen and the Mermaid Queen had lived thousands of years, so their bodies could be so perfect. How can a 16-year-old human girl defeat them in this respect? It must be a kind of talent. Hey, hey, hey. When he sighed, he heard a sound of something pounding, which sounded rhythmical and euphonious. In the air, he vaguely smelled a fragrance which made his lungs feel fresh. Walking in the direction from where the sound came, he walked to a patch of ground that was surrounded by a hedge. He could see that the hedge was just made, because there were still leaves remaining on the hedge. Looking through the hedge, he saw several girls. Coincidentally, he knew them all. Lulu was holding a pickaxe and was loosening the soil. Xiao Cao was practicing her sword skill on the land beside Lulu. She brandished her sword following a special breathing rhythm. Mai Lan, the clerk of the Starwing Knights, was looking at them. And the other girls were also the members of the Starwing Knights. They were the elites of the civilian girls' camp. There were 2 camps in the Starwing Knights. The noble girls' camp took Yu as their leader, and the civilian girls' camp took Xiao Cao as their leader. Judging from their combat power, the civilian girls' camp was slightly stronger and their members were many more than the noble girls' camp. At other times, the 2 camps were competing. Most of the time was for obtaining more of Yunshi's bread. Hey! Ha! Ha! After a while, Lulu stopped and put down the pickaxe, looking at the land with satisfaction. She loosened the soil for planting herbs. Don't waste any open space, and the best solution is to plant something. It was a tradition of civilians in the entire Eastern God's domain. Are you done? My Lan asked Lulu with expectation. The soil here is good. I think 50% of the herbs will be still alive in the fall. Lulu said in a hesitant tone. 50%, not enough. Xiao Cao stopped brandishing her sword and shaking her head. 50%, indeed, it's not enough. Other girls also bit their fingers with a grudging look. What are you trying to plant? Yunshi asked the girls who looked disappointed. He had shared Lulu's pharmacist talent through her seed, so he understood how good the soil here was. He didn't think that it's hard to plant herbs here. Dragon plant. I want to cultivate this herb. Lulu blushed, but still answered his question honestly. Dragon plant. I've heard about it. He remembered that he did hear some girls of the Starwing Knights talking about it before. Dragon plant could be used to lure dragons. It was said that dragons liked to drink the wine made from dragon plants. In a tale, a hero used it to make a dragon drunk and successfully slayed the dragon. Of course, it was just a tale. Most dragons' bodies were longer than 10 meters. If the tale was true, the dragon must have drunk a ton of wine made of dragon plant before it got drunk. The dragon plants Lulu just cultivated was like a drop in the bucket compared to the unit of a ton. Why do you want to cultivate it? You want to sell them? Yunshi remembered that dragon plant was very expensive, because they were hard to cultivate. Any change of air, water, or soil would make them withered. Chapter 371. The girl's great goal. No wonder Lulu said that only half of the dragon plants could grow up. By the way, where did she find the seeds? This herb wasn't a native plant and was a treasure even in the remote dragon god's domains. You weren't likely to buy those seeds via normal channels. Well, Lulu blushed like a little girl who had her secret found. Cough, cough. Yes, we cultivate it for money, for raising our quality of life. Apparently, my Lan was lying. Maybe some of the girls were poor before they joined the Starwing Knights, but it wouldn't be a problem anymore now. The weakest member of the Starwing Knights was at the 2nd rank, and dozens of girls had reached the 3rd rank. In the mortal world, such a force could even conquer a small country. For breast. They want their breasts to grow bigger. Suddenly, Xiao Cao said unashamedly, exposing the secret Lulu and my Lan tried to hide. Because we are not satisfied with the current size of our breast. This was the critical defect of the civilian girls' camp. Hua Yu and Ling Ling were all members of the noble girls' camp. Compared to them, the entire civilian girls' camp lacked in confidence. Numbers could do nothing when facing this problem. In a word, the civilian girls' camp was totally defeated at this point. As the cause of the civilian girls' camp, the sizes of Xiao Cao, Lulu, and my Lan's breasts could be described as poor. None of the girls of the civilian camp was full. As for the noble girls' camp, even if ruling out Hua Yu and Ling Ling, the sizes of other girls' breasts were far above the average. In Yunshi's view, it was because of their diet structure and family environment. The noble girls could eat all kinds of nutrient-rich food from their childhoods. And just several months ago, the civilian girls could only barely fill their bellies when they needed a large amount of nutrients in cultivating. Maybe there were exceptions existing in the world, but none included in the civilian girls of the Starwing Knights. They grew up in common families. The result was apparent. It was natural that the civilian girls didn't have full breast. However, what's the relationship between breast and dragon plant? Apart from Mumu, the white holy dragon, Yunshi didn't know that there was any dragon in the White Lotus Sword domain. As a creature who had high wisdom and strong power, dragons were underpopulated and most dragons lived in Dragon God's domain. However, wyverns were often witnessed in the wild of the White Lotus Sword domain. Were they planning to hunt wyverns? Dragon plant is the quest of the Dragon Blood Alliance. Finally, Xiao Cao's words exposed the wild ambition of the civilian girls. Dragon Blood Alliance. Oh gosh, are you trying to hunt the multi-headed demon dragon? Yunshi was shocked by their bright idea. The multi-headed demon dragon had been wanted for thousands of years. It was said that several gods' domains even started wars for obtaining it, but it was still on the run. Dragon Blood Alliance was a special alliance by the females who were eager for its blood. It was one of the most famous forces in all of the gods' domains, and even in the White Lotus Sword domain, there was a small branch of the alliance. No matter where the demon dragon is, even if it hid in the deepest area of hell, we will find it. Demon dragon, give up resistance and offer us your blood. Long live the Dragon Blood Alliance. It was said that the alliance had innumerable strong members, even including gods. However, the multi-headed demon dragon was still alive and kicking now. It couldn't be weak. She wasn't a girl, so he didn't understand why almost all females were eager for its blood. He didn't hear of any misdeed by the dragon, but every time people found it, it would cause carnage. Its blood could only enlarge breasts. Is it really worthy of their fever? I must successfully cultivate the dragon plant. Lulu's eyes sparkled with hope. Yes, don't give up till the last moment. Mai Lan stretched out her hands and her mind already fell into an unrealistic imagination. We must have dreams. We are all very small, so, come together with us, Mai. Patting on Yunxi's shoulders, Xiao Cao ground her teeth. What? Why do I have to worry about the size of breasts with you? I'm not a girl. Yunxi was speechless. If we can catch the demon dragon, I want a cup of blood. Just a cup. Oh, a cup of blood is sufficient to you, but to me, I'm afraid that I need 3 cups. I heard that there are only very few cups of blood in the entire Dragon Blood Alliance. For obtaining the remaining blood, the leaders of the alliance had attacked each other dozens of times. That damn demon dragon, where are you? Don't hide yourself away. Okay. Although countless girls had it daily and nightly in their thoughts, it wasn't a pleasing thing to the demon dragon at all. Chapter 372, Mumu's Change Under the Morning Sun. The disciples of the Sword Palace walked to the gate of the Sword Palace in small groups. They all looked confident and pleasant because of the White Lotus secret treasure. Even cats and dogs obtained benefits from it, not to mention them. From the beginning, these disciples were super geniuses in the entire White Lotus Sword domain. After obtaining the powers from the secret treasure, they would definitely go a step further on the road of their lives. Last night, the Sword Palace announced that all the trainee disciples would become formal disciples without any extra requirement, which made them feel so excited that they didn't sleep the whole night, and formed one small group after another according to their identities and families. At this time, they were probably at the peak of their lives. As long as people existed, different social circles would naturally form. Disciples of noble families and rich families had their circles, and disciples of civilian families also had their circles. Oh, I only heard 4 sounds at that time. Brother Li, you are better than me. No, don't say that. I only heard 5 sounds. There are a lot of people who are stronger than me. Although he said modestly, his face looked confident. No matter whether it was 4 sounds or 5 sounds, it meant that their talents were far better than ordinary people. Before yesterday, they still lacked confidence in themselves, but now, all the people who heard more than 4 sounds were confident. Reaching the hero rank was not just a dream to them all. It was like a tall tower. They already built the base and obtained the blueprint of the tower. Now they just needed to practice themselves and wait for the day that the tower is built. The White Lotus secret treasure really roiled up a storm in the entire White Lotus Sword domain. The girls also walked out of the girls' dorm, but they were focusing on another thing. Just like the male disciples, female disciples also had their circles. New disciples formed a circle, old disciples formed a circle, girls of noble families formed a circle, girls of civilian families formed a circle, servants formed a circle. However, their minds were all focusing on the same thing. Hey, is it true? You didn't guess wrong. I also become more white. Yes, when I woke up, I looked at the mirror for an hour and still didn't believe it. I never dared to imagine that my skin could be so good. Yes, from the hero-ranked female tutors to the maids who just came to the Sword Palace, they all noticed the change in their skins. The blessing of the White Lotus secret treasure didn't discriminate by the race, sex, or age. It conferred males stronger strength, faster speed, and aroused the power of their bloodlines. As for females, it conferred them more smooth skins, more nimble bodies, and more luscious hair. The higher the talent the females had, the more obvious the changes that would happen to their bodies. Looking around in front of the old gate of the Sword Palace, male disciples looked more energetic and female disciples looked more beautiful. We found a lot of good disciples this time. In front of the main temple of the Sword Palace, Red Lotus nodded with satisfaction. As the future master of the White Lotus Sword Domain, she knew that these disciples were the hopes of the entire Sword Domain. Red Lotus didn't expect that the secret treasure would come out at that time, neither knew why her body moved uncontrollably and announced the awakening of the secret treasure together with her sister, White Lotus. Perhaps we will really become the master of the secret treasure we are protecting. White Lotus smiled and looked at a corner of the girls' camp. Oh, she is probably the chosen one. Looking in the same direction, Red Lotus murmured. The girl who defeated the top 10 disciples and heard 10 sounds. Almost all people thought that it was her who aroused the White Lotus secret treasure. Apart from her, no one else heard 10 sounds. Oh, my princes of destiny, he is there, what a lucky day. Squinting her eyes, White Lotus looked at the same direction but for a different person. Oh, sisters. Beside them, a girl happily waved her hands towards the girls of the Starwing Knights. She wore a big silver headdress, a broken necklace on her neck, and there were 3 silver-blue gems slowly rotating around her body, which exposed that she wasn't an ordinary girl. Yes, she was the girl Yoon she saved on the desert island, Mumu. Today, she wore white underclothes and her naked feet were floating in the air about 1 centimeter away from the ground. Mumu, your state is still unstable, you need to seal your power before you come to see them. White Lotus touched Mumu's ears. It was Cassina who confided this mysterious girl to them, and there was a very terrible power lurking in her body. The power was sealed by special equipment called the Locked Dragon Ring. However, a part of the ring was broken, which made the seal become unstable. Cassina had to let White Lotus look after her. Oh, I see, it was all that bad guy's fault, she broke my necklace. Mumu bit her fingers with a hurt expression, but soon, she beamed with joy. Because she saw the black-haired maid who was waving her hand at her. Oh, it seems that the twin witches take care of Mumu very well, but what happened to her body? Her rank, how can it be true? Yunshi looked at Mumu in confusion. From the information of her seed, he thought that Mumu must have had a very special adventure after leaving the water god's world with the twin witches. She was just a little girl who even lacked the strength to truss up a chicken not long ago, but now when she appeared in front of him again, her power had reached the hero rank. Chapter 373, the third godlike talent. When Yunshi was in the water god's world, the threads between him and the girl's seeds became vague, and Mumu's seed even disappeared. In the past, this only happened when the seeds were too far away from him, such as his several childhood sweethearts. After he successfully proposed to the 1 million girls and found the girls of Starwing Knights, the threads of their seeds became clear again. When he left the water god's world, he still didn't know where Mumu was. Later, he heard that Mumu was being protected by the twin witches. As for why the twin witches did protect Mumu and why did the thread of her seed disappear, he knew the reason now. After appearing in front of him again, Mumu was not a weak little girl anymore. When she was on the island, she wasn't even at the first rank. She was just a girl who came to the desert island to look for her father alone. He gave her his seed at that time, because he wanted to confer this poor child his power to protect herself. But now, she was different. Perhaps she was still the shy girl who wouldn't even hurt a squirrel, but the information of her seed had totally changed. Mumu's seed, rank, unknown. Bloodline, unknown. Natural-born abilities, diamond body. Yunshi rubbed his eyes. Yes, she had the diamond body, one of the strongest rigid bodies. Just like his perfect soft body, her diamond body was far stronger than common rigid bodies. Special ability 1, Body of Diamond. Her body was harder than steel, and her attacks could smash the ground and shake the sky. Special ability 2, Heart of Diamond. Her mentality won't be influenced by anything. No evil magic can twist her holy will and bloodline. Special ability 3, the Song of Time. The girl's song resounds throughout the sky. She has the potential to be the favorite child of God. Unknown god weapon, broken. It contains a strong power of sealing. Just like the tip of an iceberg emerged out of the water, Mumu finally exposed a part of her super talents. Basing on his experience, since he didn't obtain Hua Hua's sky-flying bloodline through her seed, he knew that it wasn't likely to obtain Mumus's diamond body. The seeds could only transfer the host's experience to him, they wouldn't rob other people's bloodline powers. However, although she didn't have Hua Hua's sky-flying bloodline, he could use the godlike skill which her bloodline conferred her. Although he just knew some surface knowledge of the sky-flying sword, he could use it. What does this mean? It meant that she could learn a skill which required a corresponding power of bloodline. Mumu's diamond body was one of the godlike talents she was eager for. When he saw the information through her seed, he was so surprised that his mouth grinned from ear to ear. What a big, exciting surprise. She had only seen familiar talents from 3 people, the twin witches and Hua Hua. He tried to plant a seed into Cassina's body, but he failed. Apparently, he couldn't plant his seeds into the people who were far stronger than him. At least, it wasn't possible to plant his seeds in legend-ranked creatures such as Cassina and Hydra now. Mumu's diamond body was the 3rd godlike talent his seed system had found. And although he didn't know the reason, but compared to the twin witch's seed, which was too hard to merge, the affinity of Mumu's seed was the highest with him. Although Hua Hua was standing beside him and Mumu was still hundreds of meters away from him, he was still amazed that the experience Mumu's seed sent to him was 2 times higher than Hua Hua's seed. A large amount of information of Mumu's diamond body was sent to him across space, being absorbed by his body. It was an experience that wasn't inferior to when he first obtained Hua Hua's seed. Naturally, his body was gradually obtaining the power of diamond body, although it was totally different from his soft body. Perhaps even Mumu herself didn't know what the information was, because it was a natural talent of her body, which didn't need to be learned by her mind. However, she understood it. If his soft body was a river, then Mumu's diamond body was a mountain. His soft body could let him twist the rules of the sky and earth. Mumu's diamond body could let her smash the sky and earth using her fists and legs. 2 ultimate powers, 2 godlike talents, now she had them both. Even his teacher Cassina couldn't expect this to happen. Chapter 374. The invisible thread. Cassina was also the owner of the soft body, however, it didn't mean that the battle god genre didn't contain the cultivating techniques of the rigid body. On the contrary, Cassina's battle style was never mincing. Her attack was always as fast as a thunderclap and as violent as an erupting volcano. Her battle with sheer longness was the best interpretation. Rigid body and soft body would become similar when touching their essence. Even in the endless God's domain world, Cassina was one of the few people whose body could transfer between softness and rigidness easily. However, she probably wouldn't believe that a person could obtain the soft body and the rigid body at the same time. It was a paradox. It violated the rules of the universe. Cassina could change her body from the soft body to the rigid body, and then change back easily. However, it wasn't possible for her to maintain the 2 states at the same time. Now, Yunshi's body had accomplished this which was against the basic rule of the world. What would he become? Light and darkness. Water and fire. Pros and cons. Can they coexist? They can, my master. What is rational is actual and what is actual is rational. Light is darkness. Water and fire are just the flows of different manifestations. If it's you can toss the front and back of a coin at the same time. Even if the probability was negligible, as long as it happened, the probability would become 100%. Maya's sound roused Yunshi and pointed out a new road for him. Everything real is rational. Yes, for example, if you like her and marry her, it will become the truth of the world. And I suggest you do it. She is a super genius, Maya said with a serious look. In her mind, if her master married the little girl, he would be able to obtain all her talents through her seed. It was probably the highest ranking seed they had seen. It would be a great waste if my master doesn't use her seed, and the best solution is to marry her. Marry? Yunshi's eyes became dangerous. I can obtain stronger power from her, as long as I marry her. I don't think that Mumu will resist me, or rather to say, as a child, she wouldn't know what she would face. Oh, it's really easy to become strong. I just need to give up a few of my principles as a human. Don't be ridiculous. Even though I'm not an upright gentleman anymore now, I won't become such a beast. At the least, I will wait till she is 18 years old. Don't talk nonsense, Maya. How can I become such a bastard? She retorted with a straight face. But, master, in the past, Maya cocked her head and tried to say something. I don't know. I don't want to listen. She quickly stopped her because he had a very bad presentiment. Mumu is a good girl, and I like her, but I would never marry her. In fact, she is like a little sister in my heart. To be precise, she is like my daughter in my heart. This was his true feeling when he first saw Mumu. He wanted to protect her, giving her the warmth she missed from her irresponsible father. Oh, well. I see. You can do everything, my master. Maya shrugged, since it was her master's choice. Whoa. Mumu blushed being looked at by She's gentle eyes. She felt that she was swimming in the sea of happiness just now. Although she didn't have the memory of being hugged, she felt the warmth, as if her father had just come back. The feeling was so real that she didn't know if it was her delusion or something else. She looked at the black-haired big sister, as if there was an invisible thread between them. Every smile and motion could make her face blush and her heart pound faster. What's wrong with me? Mumu whispered to her closest and dearest friend, White Lotus. Oh, Mumu, that feeling is called love. Did you find the prince who deserves your love? Have your fingers been tied to the invisible red thread of fate? White Lotus smiled and extended her little finger. There was an invisible red thread too, which was tying her and her prince tightly. Is that so? Mumu looked at White Lotus in confusion. She didn't understand what love was, but she could feel her happiness from the bottom of her heart. However, she felt different from what White Lotus said. It wasn't a feeling called love, but a feeling that stood for a stronger emotion. Compared to White Lotus's red thread that stood for predestined marriage, her thread was much more special, sparkling like the light of the starry sky. Chapter 375, Huahua's suspicion accelerating. The transmission speed of the secret of Mumu's diamond body was still accelerating. Even though Mumu was hundreds of meters away from him, he could feel the flowing of the information of her diamond body. It's really a high-quality seed. Maya looked at Mumu, who was smiling at them. Theoretically, there was a limit of transmission speed of the seed. It wasn't likely to reach 100%. The transmission speed of Huahua's seed could reach 100%, but the speed of Mumu's seed had reached 200%. Only one theory could explain it, that is, she and my master are actually. No, I shouldn't tell my master about that. It would be too shocking to him. He would go crazy. What happened? Huahua looked around with a skeptical eye. Since last night, she had become increasingly restless, as if something very bad or fatal had just happened. However, she didn't see any enemy in her sight. It wasn't possible for the Starwing Knights girls to find out about her little she's true identity, and she had confidence in her little she's sense of morality. She believed that even if he lived in the girls' dorm, he wouldn't do anything bad. In her mind, her little she was always the common young boy who only wanted to enjoy a peaceful life. Even though she had forced him to enter the higher society, he didn't change at all. However, what was this sense of danger just now? Little she was right beside her and there was nothing special happening, but her suspicion was still lingering. Checking again. Where is the enemy? I own the strongest sky-flying bloodline. I can crush any rival. I'm the girl who knows little she the best. He should spend his life together with me. In the past, in the present, into the future, nothing can separate us. My, what are you looking at? Holding Yunshi's hands, Huahua asked him straightly. This was her privilege as his childhood sweetheart. Mumu, look, she is the girl sitting beside the White Lotus witch. Isn't she cute? Yunshi answered honestly, pointing at the silver-haired girl who was waving her hands towards them on the stage. He wasn't lying, because this was what he was thinking. Therefore, Although Hua felt uneasy, she couldn't find anything suspicious. The little girl beside White Lotus was indeed very cute. Everyone would like her at first sight. It looks like she isn't a human. Looking at the broken fetter on her hands and legs, Hua recognized that they were called lock dragon ring. They were used to seal dragons who were sentenced. She could still move after putting on the fetter. She couldn't be simple. However, the lock dragon rings were also useful tools to dragons. If a dragon got used to the fetter, the dragon could break out terrible battle power after unlocking them. Yes, but she is still a poor girl who is trying to find her father. She stared at Mumu softly. You'd better come clean. Do you like the little girl? Finally, Hua understood where her sense of danger was from. Oh, I was careless. Although she is still a child, she is still a girl. Even if she will only become my enemy after 10 years, she is still my enemy. Oh, yes, she is like a little sister to me. She hadn't realized what Hua was thinking. You want a sister? Hua's eyes became dangerous. A sister is always the biggest enemy of a childhood sweetheart. Fortunately, she had no sister. Otherwise, she would have faced a great crisis. Compared to childhood sweetheart, sisters could stay with him all day and call him brother in a cute tone. Sisters could live together with him and no one would say a word. Sisters could hide in his arms in the middle of the night after hearing a clap of thunder or having a nightmare. Sisters could naturally play the role of his bride in the game playing house. Sisters were 10,000 times tougher than dragons and demons. Sisters are the biggest impediment in a childhood sweetheart's way of becoming his brother's lover. She should never have a sister. She finally realized Hua's jealousy. Her dangerous eyes looked as if she would. In the past, he only saw this expression when he played the game playing house with Yi Li, Phyllis and Millie. Oh, I was just saying that. Hua, don't misunderstand my words. She quickly explained. Chapter 376. The super high-speed seed. The connection with Mumu brought him a super fantastic feeling. It wasn't a physical feeling, but a feeling of the soul. He felt as if he just planted a tree sapling, then saw it growing up and becoming a tree that could support the whole world. The growth of the seed is such a magical thing. Raising up his head, She looked at the girls around him. He could feel their seeds clearly. In the faraway, unknown places, he could vaguely feel the seeds of Yi Li, Phyllis and Millie. Some of the seeds that were planted into the girls' bodies were by him. Some of the seeds were his rewards from the star trials. No matter what the seeds were, once they got connected with him, everyone would have a special connection with him, just like the sparkling stars in the endless gods' domains. Now, the seeds of all the girls were sparkling in his eyes. The seeds of Mumu, the twin witches and Hua were the brightest. The seeds of Hua Yu, Xiao Cao and Lulu were slightly inferior to their seeds. Then there were the seeds of other members of the Starwing Knights. He wasn't standing under the starry sky, but he was surrounded by these bright stars. Is it my network? Amongst the seeds, a well-connected network was formed. He could feel their happiness and sorrow, he could see the traces of their fates. Because of him, their fates were totally changed and moving to an unknown direction. His own fate had also become colorful because of his connection with them. All for one, one for all. He murmured the famous proverb, then touched the brightest, hottest thread in the network. On the other end of the thread, it was the silver-haired girl who was pinching the corner of her clothes shyly. Z. A strand of Hua's hair stood up and pointed to the little girl besides the twin witches. No, it can't be possible. A strong sense of being threatened arose in her heart. Now she confirmed who the suspect was. Are you really so eager for a sister? Hua ground her teeth and held Yunshi's hands tightly. No, stop looking in that direction. I'm your childhood sweetheart, how can I lose to this little girl? If it's Yi Li, Phyllis or Millie, I can understand it, but I will never concede to this little girl who came from out of nowhere. If I lose to her, I won't believe in justice anymore. Well, in fact, I said she is like my little sister, but this feeling, I feel she is more like my Yunshi could find no words to describe it. Just like what Maya said, her seed was super excellent. He just met a seed that could transfer him such a great amount of information at such a high speed. He felt as if he was smoking. He could clearly feel the change that was happening to his body. Kasina's secret training could strengthen his body in one night, helping him break the barrier which stopped him from entering a higher realm, the hero's realm. However, it was still a step-by-step process. It wasn't that easy to break the limit of flesh and blood. Millions of years, a human body couldn't break through the limit of a mere mortal without hard practice and luck. Every meager bit of progress after reaching the limit of the human body would bring a great improvement to the body after entering the third rank. There were differences between different third ranks. The green hippo was at the third rank, the three childs were at the third rank, and Hua Hua was also at the third rank. However, the gap between their battle powers was wide and desperate. The fundamental difference was their limits were different. The green hippo was a third-ranked monster. The strength of its body was far stronger than common third-rank humans. Child Yun He, Child Xin Yan and Child San Quan were nobles. They learned the battle skills of their families from their childhoods and even had their own spirit weapons. Their bodies were far inferior to the green hippo, but they could kill the hippo with great ease. As for Hua Hua, she was an exception. She wasn't a standard common third-ranked human. If the green hippo's limit was 100, then the limit of the three childs was between 200 and 300, arguably, the limit of any common human was 300. However, humanity was just one of the races in the endless gods' domains. There were numerous races whose limit was far beyond 300. Before entering the hero rank, they were still flesh and blood, but the limit of flesh and blood of different races were various. Before his memory as the Star Child was aroused, Yunshi's limit was 100, which was even inferior to the green hippo. After being blessed by the water god, his limit increased to 800. This was also the reason Kasina thought very highly of him. And now, he felt that his limit was being broken again, which announced that he had stepped into the realm of non-humans. Chapter 377, Getting Closer. Originally, this should happen at the moment Yunshi reached the hero rank. The nature of the hero rank was an evolution of life form, a total transmutation. Even if it was a weak human, after reaching the hero rank, the human's physical quality would be stronger than an elf and even a giant. The outstanding people could even fly using the powers of their weapons, crossing the racial isolation. The hero rank meant a brand new realm. Mortals would shiver with cold in the face of monsters like the green hippo, but any hero-ranked person, even if the person just entered the hero rank, could slaughter a group of green hippos with his eyes shut. The mortal rank's limit was the starting point of the hero rank. The stronger a person was when the person was still a mortal, the higher the potential the person would show after reaching the hero rank. Yunshi thought that he was already very close to his limit, but now, his limit was expanded again. Everything about his body had become unknown just now. After obtaining the information of Mumu's diamond body, he clearly felt that his bones and muscles were strengthened, and his breathing became slow. His blood flowed slowly like the lava in the volcano. The rhythm of his life was becoming slow, because his body was restraining itself. Once he was ready for a battle, his body would release the amazing amount of power it saved, just like an erupting volcano. This technique was included in Kasina's training course of the battle god genre. However, it was a very high-level technique which Kasina wasn't going to teach him before he learned the basic skills. But now, Yunshi obtained the soft body and the rigid body both, then he naturally understood this technique. Unlike the soft body, the strengthening goal of the rigid body was higher, faster, stronger. The soft body could let the flexibility and agility of his body reach its limit. The rigid body could improve and help the hardness and strike resistance of his body reach its limit. The two different evolutionary lines existed in his body harmoniously and perfectly. He hadn't reached the hero rank, but his temperament already made him look like a great sword master. From today on, he already stepped into the realm that Hua Hua and the twin witches had reached. After his limit practice in the small valley, he reached the first stage of his cultivation. Now, he just reached the second stage. In the first stage, he obtained his heart of never yield. Even facing countless deaths, he wouldn't surrender in the trial. Without a heart of never yield, even if his talent was 10 times greater, he wouldn't be able to find his own road. In the second stage, he just obtained his body of never collapsing. In the long history, it wasn't rare that a genius couldn't step into a higher realm because of his physical defects. No matter how talented the genius was, without a good body, he could only turn into the ash of history after a helpless sigh. If he wanted to reach the legend rank, only a great good body could withstand the great power of the legend rank. Although a good body wasn't necessary when trying to reach the hero rank, for example, even a soul who had no good body could reach the hero rank. However, the hero rank was imperfect, which meant that the soul could never reach the legend rank. Only the person whose body, soul, and technique were all perfect had the hope to enter the realm of the legend rank. Cassina was a wonderful example. Now, on his way to becoming strong, Yunshi had only a weakness, technique. This was the only difference between him and Hua Hua and the twin witches. He didn't realize that he had become closer and closer to the distant goal in his eyes, his invincible childhood sweetheart. The will of the stars was indeed pushing him to step onto the road that nobody had come down yet. However, it was also a road with infinite possibilities. Of course, there was also a very negligible defect. The principle of equal value exchange was still available. After obtaining so much from Mumu, it was natural that he needed to give her the corresponding return. However, the one who paid the price wasn't Yunshi himself but the stars. It's warm, it's like, someone is hugging me. Mumu held her arms with an intoxicated look. From just now, she could feel an unknown warmth coming from nowhere. In her small universe, the silver dragon whose body was covered with wounds smiled in her deep sleep. Mumu Salabert had a dream, a happy, warm, colorful dream, a dream she didn't want to wake up from. In the dream, she was a careless child, and her daddy was hugging her and praising her. Mumu is my good girl. I love you. Hey, Papa, I love you too. Oh, let this dream become longer and longer. Chapter 378. The growth of the seed. You have successfully accepted all the information in the seed. Maya pleasingly announced. The secret of Mumu's bloodline talent, diamond body, had all been absorbed by Yunshi's body. Correspondingly, a part of his talent, his soft body, also returned to Mumu's body. Not only Mumu, as long as he kept growing, but also all the girls in the network of his seeds could achieve growth. Because Yunshi absorbed Hua Hua's seed and transferred his experience into the bodies of the girls of the Starwing Knights, those girls who didn't have a great talent of sword skill originally all became excellent sword geniuses. Similarly, the girls of the Starwing Knights also shared a part of the mentality talent Yunshi obtained from the twin witches. When Yunshi obtained the soft body in the water god's world, the girls' bodies immediately became more nimble and flexible. Now, he obtained Mumu's super high speed. The girls of the Starwing Knights also obtained a part of the properties of the rigid body. This time, not only the common girls of the Starwing Knights, even Hua Hua and the twin witches were influenced. After obtaining Hua Hua's seed and the twin witches' seed, he could absorb experience from their seeds, but couldn't influence the two special seeds. It was because the rank of their seeds was too high. Yunshi's personal understanding about the sword was like nothing compared to their seeds. Naturally, they couldn't feel anything. However, it was different this time. Because the change happened to him this time was too big. Even the hero-ranked twin witches and his invincible childhood sweetheart could clearly feel it. After Yunshi finished absorbing the secret of Mumu's diamond body, Hua Hua and the twin witches suddenly shivered. They noticed the changes that happened to their bodies. It's strange, my bloodline was aroused just now? No, it wasn't that kind of feeling, Hua Hua murmured and still held Yunshi's hands tightly. She still blocked his sight of Mumu with her own body, trying to stop him from looking at her in this manner. Almost all people wished that their bloodlines could be aroused by 100%, breaking the limit of their bodies. However, Hua Hua always suppressed her bloodline, just in case that her power increased too fast and too strong. However, although her power was enhanced this time, she didn't feel any change in her bloodline. She knew it must be something else. As a super genius who had to suppress her growth, there weren't too many things in the world that could make her feel surprised. I just became stronger. Red Lotus was taken aback. She hadn't practiced hard recently, but her body naturally became stronger just now. Although she could find no reason to explain it, the enhancement of her own body was undoubtedly a good thing. It wasn't your delusion. I feel I've become stronger too. Apparently, White Lotus realized something. Holding her sister's hands with a smile, she quietly took a glance at a corner under the stage. To them, every insignificant progress in their powers was meaningful, because they had their own secret. Hua, what's wrong? He finally realized that his childhood sweetheart's face looked strange. Doubt, unease, anger, reluctance, happiness. It was really hard to believe that she could show so many expressions on her face at the same time. Humph. It's all your fault. It was good to become stronger, but she wouldn't forget Yunshi's eyes when he looked at Mumu. Even becoming stronger couldn't make her lose her focus on this. She swore that there must be something wrong. She wasn't going to turn a blind eye to it. Did anything happen when Yunshi was on the desert island? Only during that period of time was she not staying with him. Tell me the truth, little she. How did you find her? Hua questioned him with an undisguised jealous look. Well, it was just an accident. I just found her. Yunshi felt that his familiar girlfriend in his memory had just returned. As expected, no matter how strong Hua had become, she was still the familiar girl in his heart. She never changed. I don't believe it, she said as she ground her teeth. How can anyone find a silver-haired little girl on a desert island so easily? Is this the plot from a fantasy novel that was already out of date 1,000 years ago? It must be because of a conspiracy. She didn't believe that it was an accident at all. How can I give you a chance? Even Yi Li, Elphilis and Milei had all been defeated by me. How can I let you steal the fruit of my victory away? I know everything about him, including his favorite clothes, favorite food and drink, and his favorite girls in the books he hid secretly. How can I be defeated by you, a little girl from nowhere? It's true. This is the first time I've seen her after leaving the water god's world. Of course, Yunshi wouldn't tell Hua that he had planted his seed into her body. He didn't lie, he just told her the truth selectively. Really? As his childhood sweetheart, she could easily detect it if he was lying. Yes, he didn't lie. This really was their first meeting after leaving the water god's world. Fortunately, nothing has happened. I must break off the connection between them before anything does happen. It's the smartest thing of my life to let my little she become a great sword maid. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.